thing.
Do your introduction, we'll have a bit of banter, and then I'll just be like, yeah, the
Cool story.
We're not the first. We definitely won't be the last. We'd like to welcome you. Another conspiracy cast.
Welcome to not another. Because wait, I get this wrong every time. Every time.
bloopers reel.
Welcome to another episode of Not Another Conspiracy Podcast with Mr. Dean Sauter over
Hello.
in Michigan, Mr. JJ in lovely York, and myself on the southeast coast, Southend on.
Mr. Ben Mills.
Thank you. So yeah, guys, how are you? How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah, doing all right, man. Looking forward to this one. Although it's a rather thin story on the surface. I'm looking forward to discussing it.
And before we discuss it, JJ, I think you have something to say.
I have something to say. Thank you to our boys at OG Socks.
Ooh.
OGSocks.co.uk. Sent us over some fast food collection socks. I got these donut ones and these pizza ones.
Is that an
And these
avocado?
burger ones. This behind me, that's the Death Star.
Oh, right.
Oh, you mean, right, you mean on the socks? Oh, right, no.
Man.
Yeah, they sent us those this week. I've sent yours all the way to America, Dean. They'll probably
Thank you
get
very
there,
much, sir.
when socks are no longer needed because there is no earth to live on to put your feet on. They've kindly given us a code, a discount code, which is NAC.
It's
And that's
NAC.
for
And it's
NAC.
NAC. And was it 27 or 28%? 27?
20%.
20%. I was pushing the boat out a little bit there. But yeah, ogsocks.co.uk. 20%.
Code
Code
NAC.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thought I'd
guys.
just shout that across to my neighbours out through this basement here. Just so they can get it too.
They're very cool, though.
I gave my pizza socks to my brother-in-law. Not my brother-in-law, to my brother.
Happy birthday.
I just didn't want to be like anything pizza related, just in case.
I'm gonna have to
Pedophiles.
subconsciously avoid the frozen pizza freezer
Yeah.
at Walmart
Yeah.
or something as well. Yeah.
Don't order a freezer full of pizzas from Wayfair.
From Wayfair. That's what a dilemma that would be.
Before we get too far into this, for the last week, don't know if it's some sort of weird algorithm, but I'm getting a notification twice a day from Wayfair. They're really trying to push selling shit. Like, I don't know if their stocks have just gone down. I just keep getting notification after notification about them. And this
There's
is all
no
because
goods in there.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm not buying anything.
Until this
I lie.
did I get a child with every order.
I still can't believe that bloody Harvest book in the background. Before we head on to Bob Lazar, I'm still thinking about the stuff we discussed on the last episode. Like the fact that of using a book in the background called Bloody Harvest and like the harvesting of organs and all sorts. Like, yeah, why's that in the background?
Just a quick one if anyone wants to discuss any of these things, because in the last week or so we've been having these fucking crazy discussions on Discord.
It's
and I
been
didn't even
mad.
realise Discord was a thing until like we started doing this. But
Yeah.
it's insane the amount of people who have been like chipping in and be like, I know this and this, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, it's just mindfuck. But I don't know the address if one of you guys want to put it in a link somewhere.
Yeah, it randomizes, I think, but we'll put a link. There's always a link in the description below. Of the podcast.
And with Discord though, like as a tip anyway, Ben, you're able to actually put a non-expiring link. So
I've
hopefully,
done that, but I keep forgetting.
You keep forgetting it.
Keep copying it and then keep making a new one. So
Yeah.
there is one. There will be one in the link below.
Excellent.
Link
Cool.
below. This week has been conspiracy overload for me. People have just been coming in. Like first time I watched Fall of Cabal. Like
I still haven't finished it yet.
Mate,
I've not finished it
I
yet.
can't wait till you've watched it, so then we can talk about it fully.
Okay.
I'm
That was
trying
my
it.
first lockdown. That was my first lockdown video. Like,
Right. when we're
And
done
it was
here-
when it was in parts, so it was like, and then they deleted bits, and she translated it into like Dutch, and then someone translated it back because like all the English ones were being deleted everywhere. So like some guys now put up a full version, right?
Yeah.
I think on BitChute. So
Yeah, it's on
That's the
YouTube
one I
again at
got.
the moment, but I don't know for how long. But definitely,
I'll,
we'll put the link in there into our Discord for everyone to watch, because I think that'd be a
Right.
really cool episode to do after we've kind of got more people involved
Sure.
and watched
Well,
it,
I'm gonna-
because it's insane. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all
and it'll be about
not
14 hours long.
80%. It's like 80% bullshit, I think. But like, if only 20%, if 20% of that is true, then it's insane.
Oh
I
my
like
God.
I like already that you two are already like completely at
I have
different
to.
ends of the.
I have to
Oh.
think it's bullshit, because if it's not bullshit, if I think it's real, my head will explode. And my head, for 3
I'm gonna
days, I
watch it
kept
after this.
trying to get you guys to talk about it, and you're all busy, and I'm going, my God, fall like a ball.
But Dean's
It's
probably
a galactic
asleep, and I'm just in
paintball.
bed trying to fucking forget about it. Dean's like, you
it's
just
like-
imagine like a cartoon version of us, and Dean's got like all these nice little thought bubbles. I'm
And
in
you
bed
guys-
shivering, and you're just like cracked up on it, like,
You guys are all sitting in the
became
corners of your
Alex
houses
Jones.
getting like that.
yeah.
It's a
just
galactic
quivering.
space pedophiles.
I'm just totally fine. But yeah, I'll make a point of watching it after this, after recording this episode.
You'll need a fucking week off once you've watched
Yeah.
that. You won't want to. You won't want to leave the house.
I'm going to watch it again and see if I don't. See what happens.
I love
What are you
it.
doing? What are you doing tonight? Oh, he's a madman. He's watching Fall of Kabul again.
Again. He's
Again.
like,
Well, my
I don't want
brother-
any more drugs. Give me another one.
My
I want
brother
it.
watched it. That's what got me onto it, because I'd never, like, you'd mentioned it a long time ago, JJ. But my brother was like, "You have to watch this video. It's called something Kabul." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "No, you have to watch it." And then I text you, and you went, "Yeah, here are the links." It's there. Go watch it. But he's like, going, "They drink blood. They get them so scared, and then they drink their blood." I'm like, "Oh God, I'm gonna
What?
watch it." And then I watched it.
No,
and I
stop
was-
spoiling this. Stop
Yeah.
spoiling this, please.
That's not the first 5 minutes. Like,
Ah!
Yeah, she just bats that under the table. She's just like, and they drink people's blood? Her voice is fucking
this
annoying.
normal?
Though, like,
That's
they
it.
think this is normal?
Drinking people's blood? They think this is normal? It's just like, it's like.
Could
she's
the world be run by reptiles?
It's that you remember.
She sounds like she's just about to spill loads of drinks.
Remember in Anchorman when they accidentally put a question mark in there, and he goes,
Oh, that's it. He's
like,
gonna
San
read it.
Diego? Like,
San
I remember. She's written question mark at the end of every line of her sentence. They're drinking blood. Anyway,
So good. Anyway, the subject in hand.
moving on to Mr. Robert Scott Lazar. What does everyone know about Robert Scott Lazar before we start and we get into it?
I know a fair amount. I would have said I know a decent amount, but now in 2020 everything's gone UFO crazy. There's a lot of stuff in the past that has come up in a lot of the research. Well, the research we've been trying to do with Bob Lazar. So I kind of know an okay amount at the moment compared to what I felt like I knew when, I don't know, the internet first come out, and obviously you're searching absolutely everything possible. Oh, Area 51, oh, Bob Lazar. But yeah, I'd say I know a fair amount at the moment. I thought I knew more, but I don't. I'm learning so much more stuff.
I feel, whilst we were discussing all this, I feel that everything you need to know about Bob Lazar is quite sort of, it's all there, because it's been such a story for like maybe
That's why
20, 30 years.
That's why I said
And you
it's like a
think-
thin story.
Yeah, you think you need to know more about the guy, and I think this is what we were discussing. I think this is why it's such an intrigue, because he's such a likable guy. Mm-hmm. He's got like, I mean, we'll explain to people who don't know anything about him in a bit, but like, he's such a nice guy. He has no kind of, he's got a bit of a dark past, I guess. I mean, he's got
Right.
a bit of a connection with women of the night and whatnot, and he, you know, but I mean, he lives near Vegas, like. Well, he built a website for him, and then I think he was like, "Oh, these girls are really nice to me. I think I'll, buy them a house where they can do their dirty wares in."
Loves grass.
You know, I think it, and it's just like, he seems like, to me, he just seems like one of those fucking, like, proper nerds who you went to school with, who just gets along with everybody, kind of floats through life, not really being known for anything. But then one day he creates a fucking rocket bike, and everyone in the streets going, "That's a cool rocket bike!" I don't know why they're from Australia, but it went so fast he went to Australia and back. And he broke the sort of time space continuum. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the sort of side of, I like him. I think he's had a bad rap, and I think a lot of things, where anything is concerned with these kind of conspiracies, they always find the dark parts about you and then immediately just go, well, he's an alright guy, but he said this about 20 years ago, which makes him a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, right.
Very much like the whole paedophile thing that's going on at the moment. Like, you know, he's a nice guy, but he has sex with kids, you know.
But Bob Lazar didn't have sex with kids.
No, let's just... I mean, he looks like he would have sex with kids.
Right.
Like, but that's fine. You wouldn't let him need
He's
kids.
like... He comes across to me like the nerdy kid at school that played video games but also listened to punk rock. Like...
Yeah.
Probably
like
us three.
Yeah, and a really good record collection, yeah.
Really good record collection. And he probably started a little record label at some point as well.
He was an indie promoter, but like an absolute nerd. Yeah, I get him.
Yeah.
He's a likable dude. Absolutely.
He's a likable dude. His story hasn't changed. He's never embellished. He's never been looking for... He's not really been looking for money, like, from what I gather. But he's obviously made some money from it.
Right, of course, yes.
Otherwise, I don't...
So, I think we should go into the... I mean, before we start, where does everyone stand on him? Like, at the moment? Because up until we discussed we were doing Bob Lazar, I was 100%, I'm on Bob, I'm Team Bob.
Bob.
since because we were saying that there was so little about him that was like, you know, weird or different, I started researching alternative views of Bob Lazar, and I found out a lot of stuff afterwards about Bob Lazar where I was like, you see, that's one of the... So that's one of the things where people say that he hasn't made money from it.
Right.
But I don't know if his website's still there. I haven't had time to check today because I listened to this podcast today. They do, in the end, say that he did have a website selling models of the aircraft that he drew, and he sold T-shirts with the aircraft he drew on and stuff like this. But we can go into that later, I guess.
He sold, from what I remember seeing on one of these things, he'd sold his designs to a model making company, but quite a big one. So
yes,
the one UFO model you could buy in the States to build, like Airfix model, the American version of Airfix models, was his design, and he got a percentage of him. So he was making hand over fist on that because they sold like. So he
was making money. I think that was that was one thing I learned about him. And then, but I mean, we can go into that later.
That
I think,
could be
because
as simple as someone going, "Can we have your design? Like, we'll pay you for your design." And he's not stupid. He's gone, "Yeah, you give me a percentage of every sale." He's probably, you know, is that an afterthought, or was money the main game? But I can't see how he was expected to make money from it.
I also think, like, if you'd have, like I say, it's hard to speak about it now without letting everyone know, like, the background of him, but I think if you'd gone through that much shit in your life, you'd be like, fuck, I want to make some money out of this.
Right,
like, I've been doing it 25 years, and I've had all these things happen to me, which we will talk about, but you'd just be like, fuck, I want to make some money out of it. Like, I want to build some more fucking bombs or whatever, and make some more rocket skateboards. Yeah. I want to go to Australia again.
So
You gonna tell the story?
Pardon?
Tell the story of Bob Lazar. What happened?
Oh, blimey. Like, okay, so... Okay.
I love how it always gets put on Dean, where I was like, I know everything! And then
well, what I'll just quickly explain as well is, after doing the research with the time frame that I had to do so, before I was absolutely Team Bob. I would say I do lean more toward Bob than anything else, but learning a few... hearing some rebuttals from other sources and stuff with regards to his past and other things here and there, it kind of made me take 1 foot out of Team Bob, if you know what I mean. I sat there, I was just like, okay, that's a bit it's a bit naughty that, like, and this doesn't connect with that too well. Or saying again, we'll get to those things, but with the with the rebuttals that I'm hearing, there is a lot of stuff that makes you sit there and go, oh, so he is a bit of a naughty fella, like yeah. So,
but nothing too wild. I think that's the thing. Like, this is why I'm with him, because he's just that. He's kind of that guy who just always just blended in and was like, and he's not interested. And then this is, in my mind, what makes things up for me in the end.
Yes,
Yeah, he is always just that middle of the road guy. Middle of the road guy. And it's just like,
totally understand that.
One day you get that thing in your brain where you're just like, I just wish I was noticed. I wish I was big. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Tom Hanks comes in.
Yeah, he just has like this wavy dream, like from Wayne's World. And he's got a guy with a big cigar going, "You're going to be big, kid, real big. Just do this."
Yeah,
but,
like
so
Pink Floyd song.
I'd say I'm 75% Team Bob. Really is the way to put it. So so when it comes now, this is like Bob Lazar. If you're a conspiracy fan and you don't know who Bob Lazar is, like, you need to go back to Conspiracy School 101. I feel like he's all. I feel like he's almost. Sorry.
It's the first like he's the original UFO story, really, isn't it?
Right,
Apart from, like,
exactly.
Betty and Barney Hill and that.
Right.
That is the first I've seen it in a US naval base.
Yeah, and the first person to sort of drop the bomb of there being some secret like military base in the middle of the desert, like all the movies make it look like.
But there was,
he was probably the first person who coined whistleblower, right? I think he was probably one of the first people who was considered a government whistleblower,
where it was used in a very broad manner, or in a mainstream manner. Yeah. So I'll try and rehash what I know of Bob Lazar. So he was born. I've got a few little notes here. He was born in 1959 on the 26th of January. He grew up in New York. He graduated from West Tresper Clark High School in 1976. He's infamous also for building a jet engine and attaching it to his bike, as well as a jet-powered Honda Civic.
And travelling around the world to Australia. It went that fast it took off.
So the story goes that this well-educated, thinking outside of the box kind of physicist broke the news or the secret that there was a US military base in the middle of the Nevada desert, and that they were housing spacecraft, 9 in total, and that he had worked in a part of the complex, an area called S4, and that he was tasked with reverse engineering a gravitational reactor that they believed powered one of these spacecraft that the US military held in Area 51. It was his job to reverse engineer this reactor.
Along with Barry. Don't forget Barry.
Yes, he had his token science lab partner Barry, like that guy, because everybody knows a Barry like they know a Dave, you know.
Barry's just shaking his fist like, if only I was Bob Lazar, if only I spoke out of line. Barry's still working there. Yeah. Barry's just like, fucking element 115. And all his skin's falling off.
From the radioactivity.
Turns it into an alien.
Yeah.
So Bob, this Bob Lazar breaks the news that this military base is holding alien spacecraft or technology that's not of this world, and that these things exist, and that he thinks he might have seen an alien, and broke it to the world in, I believe it was 1989. I think he came forward through a reporter named George Knapp, who was a very, I guess, well-respected, and still is, a very well-respected journalist in, like, the Nevada area, or the Las Vegas area. Bob Lazar went to television, unidentified. He was he was black-faced almost because he's a shadow, like in the video confession on the news or whatnot. And yeah, let's cancel him immediately. He then
just a quick interruption.
Sure.
If we can, I don't know if we'll be able to find it. If you could put a link to that straight away, because if anybody knew Bob Lazar, you'd just be like, "That's a silhouette of my friend Bob Lazar who works."
Yes.
It's just like he's literally got like two square fucking shadows on his eyes, and
This is Dennis. That's not Dennis. That's Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's fucking sat in the back of a van with a bright white light exactly against his silhouette. So his silhouette is perfect. And he's just like, and there was 3 UFOs, and I saw another 6.
Bob. This is not Bob Lazar speaking.
They're all
This is Dennis.
they're all in the cafeteria at Area 51, and they're like, no wonder Bob ain't in work.
They've all had like some sort of fire. What do you call them? Like a training drill. They're like, where the fuck's Bob gone? Evening news when they get back.
And so from there on, after this confession on television, Bob's life just goes from like, I guess okay at that point to worse, because so we I guess if with regards to this story that we've just said, the basics on who Bob Lazar is, I think it is important to go I guess to his past on what he tells us is his past life, because it's very thin, as I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, how a lot of people that debunk him or try to disprove his words are because his past is really murky, really murky,
or just completely deleted by the government.
I think one of the first approaches we should, I think, as this is a conspiracy podcast,
sure,
or not another one, we should approach it from the conspiracy standpoint, like what Ben just said there about how the government have basically cancelled his background. So
yes,
that is the thing you do. It's the same as any of your friends. If they do loads of fucking nice stuff, they do one bad thing, and then you always go, I always knew he had a bad side to him,
right,
that Bob Lazar.
So
for one, I can't remember, and because it gets so again murky. They're now trying to say the government are trying to say that he never worked there, right?
Yeah,
that was the immediate.
Yeah.
So that is the immediate cancel, which then goes into his past, I think, because if you immediately say you know something about somewhere that's dodgy, and they go, he never worked here.
Exactly, they said that, and then Los Alamos, which is the place he worked at before, where he got recruited from, they said, oh no, he never worked here. Eventually, like they were saying, he worked here, and then he could never prove it. But they were, no, he never worked here. They found him in the blooming call log.
Yeah,
like Rob
they found him in the call
log.
log.
The one place they didn't delete him from. They actually found that he worked there. So that's
and they said
that they were
didn't they say
him.
something along the lines of that he was a potential. They said he was a potential. We were going to do an interview, or we did an interview, and realised that we didn't want him. That's why he was on the call log. And then they went through all the other call log, and everyone else who was on that call log had worked there.
Yeah, no, it
so
was like a directory.
this one and
it was a directory, of the yellow pages, wasn't it? It's like the yellow pages, but of that place.
of the place.
Why was he on there?
So yeah, exactly, because that's what one of the people said. They said that he was a potential to work there, like as if some guy just went, I know this guy who builds rockets and puts them on bikes. I reckon he'd be real good fixing these flying saucers.
Get Bob in here, be able to do that.
Bob got him, not Bob, what's his name? The other guy you were talking
Barry.
about. Barry got him the job. Barry's like, I fucking got him that bastard job, and he didn't even give me a fucking heads up. Didn't even give me a nod, did he?
So we'll go back to, obviously, I guess the early parts that focus on Bob's education as well as like what he tells us his past is. So he in 1976 he continued his education after leaving New York and graduating from Tresper Clark High School. He got a master's degree in physics in Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is obviously the world famous MIT. One of like, if your brain is huge, you're probably going to there if you're in the United States.
Or
Now-
if your glasses are huge.
yeah, all that. So, speaking of like a master's degree in physics, like that sounds like that's beyond impressive. And this is where I got to a point of sitting there and saying like, oh, I don't know, like how my grumble is I don't understand how would you sort of lose evidence of a master's degree in physics at MIT?
What he says is that he was doing like a covert degree. That makes sense. Like his thing was off the.
He was doing night school, basically.
Yeah, no, it was like an under the radar degree. Like his thesis was on something that was eventually going to go into something, and it was all really. Like...
Yeah, so there's quite a few things that you. So I tattoo a paleontologist, and when she discovers new things, she has to like do them under like not a pen name, but she has to speak to her professor first, or
Right.
did have to speak to her professor, and then she gets the permission to do it because it's not proven. But then they're liable there to if you do it all, and then they pass you, and then the theory gets proven wrong.
Yeah.
They're liable to it, so they have to kind of somebody above you has to be like, yes, this is technology that probably or something will happen in the next X amount of years. So I think that's what he was doing. So he was writing a thesis or as we would know, like a dissertation, I guess, on something that was kind of fringe science, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
So something that's not
pseudoscience at the moment.
Yeah, so
sort of
it's nearly there, but they haven't. The guys in the bigwigs haven't gone. You can do this now. It's kind
right.
of like
Okay. Yeah.
So yes, I think that was what was the crap.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that where did with the research I'd done, I must have totally missed that, and that
That's
sounds
in,
like a very
the film.
plausible. Sorry.
That's in the film. The Bob
Oh, in the
Lazar
Jeremy
and
Corbell
UFOs.
one.
Right, let's just hold it for a second. Jeremy Corbell is the most annoying man on the planet. Carry
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's
He's the Macaulay Culkin of UFO searching.
So
He's the
yeah.
Prince Andrew of UFO searching.
Jesus Christ.
No, I've watched 3 podcasts today with him on Rogan, and he is so annoying. Like he's like really bad at going, I've seen it, and Joe go, got to show me, and he goes, oh, I've just got to find it on my.
It's in my It's in my film.
It's in my
It's in my film. Yeah, it's in my film.
Yeah.
It goes, yeah, but we want to see it now. Like where?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but you have to buy it on Amazon Prime. It's £3.99.
It's in my film.
But did you not notice, like, without going too far again, but did you not notice how the first Joe Rogan one with Jeremy Corbell, Joe Rogan had that kind of like, fuck
Stand
you,
up.
man. I know your fucking game. And then on the last one, he was just like, thank you so much for like bringing all this stuff forward. They
Yeah.
must chat about shit like.
Well, he brought on that Colonel guy, didn't he? That saw the Tic Tac.
Fravor.
Yeah, forever.
And
Yeah.
Arthur Fravor, Rogan's gone, oh, maybe this guy ain't full of shit. Because with Bob, he thought Jeremy was full of shit. And
Yeah.
but then he didn't think Bob was full of shit. But I think Bob came across quite bad on that podcast.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've got migraine, I can't remember. Oh.
It's like the
Just
Prince
go,
Andrew. It was like the
you-
Prince Andrew.
Yeah,
I don't
how are
swear.
you on that podcast with a migraine? If I was in that room with those lights and I had a migraine, I would be off. I was like, no, I can't do it. You have to come.
The argument was that he was he's been talking about it for 30 fucking years, and he's just like he probably doesn't even know who fucking Joe Rogan is. He's probably high.
Yeah.
I mean, you
He
see it
was-
on the.
Well, he very much loosened up towards the end of the podcast, though, because they had
They
so
were
much
drinking,
fucking
weren't they?
whiskey in them, I think.
Yeah.
But
It was. Yeah,
sorry.
we keep going well west, don't we?
no, I know. So,
We're just so excited about it.
Aliens!
so it makes sense for what JJ was explaining, that he was getting a master's degree at MIT in physics, kind of like an under the radar. And like you said, JJ, to hear actually someone that kind of has a parallel example of what could have been done or how he did, that's quite interesting to me. So that's already ticked something off of my box.
Just to actually like speak about how that system works as well. I'm not going to say her name, but she she's every time I tattoo her, she always talks about how high, not how high she is up in, but she's kind of the UK's sort of real serious paleontologist.
Gotcha.
Like,
yes.
you know, and it's quite a male-driven system.
Yes.
And basically, what happened is she spoke to this guy, this professor, about something she discovered. Mm-hmm. She did a thingy, did a writing about it, and then the guy basically plagiarized her thing and claimed it was his because she'd basically discovered a new species of shark, which if she's watching, she'll know who she is. But she just as a little nod, she is naming the shark after Mike Patton from Faith No More.
Wow.
Yeah, which is cool as fuck. But
Patton shark.
Well, no,
Mike.
she's naming
It's
it
called
like
Mike
something.
the Shark.
She's naming it after something. What was his first band called? That fucking weird one.
Oh, Mr. Bungle.
Mr. Bungle. Yeah, she's naming it after because she's obsessed
Call
with
him
it.
Mr. the Shark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mr. Shark.
Mr. Mike the Shark. But yeah, just to kind of like how that system works, it's one of them things. Like obviously, imagine if I forgot his fucking name, Bob Lazar. He was writing all this stuff, this crazy ideas, and this guy went, well, do you know what'd be easier? I take his ideas, and then I just completely cancel that guy. That's just a theory. That's just a wild theory, but
Right.
you know. So basically, they say that for you to go through that system, your thesis or your dissertation should be in an archive, and it's the same. Like my dissertation's still in the Northumbria archive, even though my course doesn't exist anymore. But if you go through the system, it's always in an archive of dissertations. They've got like thousands and thousands of probably millions of documentations of people's theses.
Yeah.
So the argument is that people are saying that he didn't ever go there, are saying, well, he didn't have a dissertation, so he either was there and didn't complete it, or he was there and left, or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was just like an insight into that system. So whether it's different in America, I don't know. But
That's
but
definitely one of the grey areas for me is his education thing. Like either he was deleted by the government, or he's bullshitting. There's not really any grey area there, is there? He's bullshitting because he says that he was in a Black Ops course, basically a Black Ops university course. Like
just a kind of like a hurry through sort of thing.
Yeah, and he goes, but then he goes like, how would I have got my job at Los Alamos if I wasn't a physicist?
Right, yeah, and if he didn't have
unless they got him straight out of high school, and he said they didn't.
Right, exactly, because going on to that, he worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and that was originally part of the Manhattan Project as well.
It's one of the biggest labs in the US.
Right, and it's responsible for creating the bombs that took out Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that, allegedly wasn't that at first. They were like, no, he's never worked for us. We've got nothing of evidence of him working here, or it's a load of shit that. But there was a Bob Lazar, and isn't it there that they discovered his name, or George Knapp, discovered his name in the phone book?
That is it. Yeah, that's it.
Like that seems it seems like they're incredibly like well regarded laboratory, like a university or a college, and then like a laboratory. Like if you're gonna sit there and make up a story, I feel like that's like a huge take, like to begin with. And then that they sit there and say, oh, no, he never worked here, that's a load of shit. And granted, Bob, too, doesn't have any evidence to prove that he worked there. But they found him in the fucking phone book. But what another, grey area with that with me was I did read that apparently the phone book, I think you've got different information on this, Ben, but apparently the phone book included names of people not necessarily employed by the Navy at Los Alamos, but through an agency of some sort.
He said he admits to be working for an agency.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I was talking about there. They were saying that on the documentary that I listened to, the podcast that I listened to, said that he could have potentially have been like not a backup, but like somebody you know, a nuclear guy. Imagine, you know, you're working with fucking nuclear chemicals.
Right,
Your guy goes to work one day, he melts, and you're like, shit. Who do we fucking get now? Like, you know,
Where's Robert? He melted. He's there.
and he's like, call
shit.
Homer Simpson. No, he's got it as well. He's turned yellow. Fucking, who else do we ring?
Rick Sanchez? No, he doesn't want to fucking hear from you.
Yeah, so that's what I heard. He was like kind of like on a list of people that were gonna
like a temp.
could
Right.
potentially work.
Okay, so then for Lost...
He's a substitute physicist, but he'd show up and he'd just wheel a TV into the lab. And then we'll see what he's doing the days he was in.
So that's... Now that, if you ask me, when that comes to like trying to eradicate someone like through the government or needing to do so, that does in fact sound like something that the government would sit there and be like, oh shit, we definitely forgot about that. Like, I think we're all on the side to agreeing that at some point the government can have the power to try and make your past disappear. I find it hilarious that, well, not so much hilarious, but in the sense of that I disbelieve it. It sounds plausible that they would have forgotten a phone book in circulation that within all of those pages might possibly contain, or that they forgot that it would contain.
I think the lack
Robert
of
Lazar's...
evidence is kind of damning to them, because it's like there's one thing they didn't get rid of. Rather than,
exactly.
Like him being in that one thing is enough for me to say, well, he could probably work there. Whereas if there was like none, and he was just like, well, they've deleted me, then you're like, maybe not. But that one little thing,
it's not like it's a rare name either, is it?
Right,
Lazar,
exactly. Like... Yeah. There was no, if you looked on the image that they showed, there was no other Lazar. And I think the two surnames that were under and above him, like, they both had, like, doubles or at least triples with them.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not like, oh, so this Robert Lazar just never been here before. Well, fucking, who is this one Robert Lazar then? Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, him. Ah.
Oh, Robert Lazar. Sorry.
Yeah.
We must have spelled it wrong. The one thing I yeah, well, that's what we were saying before, wasn't it? Like, it should have been called Bob Lazar, and then no one would have fucking believed him. He's like, hi, I'm Bob Lazar, figure skating champion of the world.
Sorry, JJ, go on.
One of the weird things about it, well, what I was thinking was that the concept that they're kind of, I completely forgot what I was about to say then, but that if they were going to get rid of everything, and like you say, that small file, like, they probably shouldn't be keeping massive stacks of information in a high classified place. And if they did, why would they give them to that fucking guy? What was his name? George Knapp.
Yeah.
Like, it's classified. Like,
it's doxing.
Why would they have even let him have it? So
Right.
this is part of the thing for me. Like, it was quite easy for them to delete any kind of bold information about him.
Yeah.
But that fucking phone book, why did they give it to George Knapp? You know the whole Richard Doherty thing? I'm just like, was that just put the disinformant guy for the UFOs?
Yes. Sorry, right. Yeah.
Why did they let? So, like, going back onto the Fravor thing, like, it's the same as people go, oh, well, he's obviously had too much G-force around his fucking brain. I'm just like, yeah, but you commended him for years and years and years after that. So you basically acknowledged that he was a fucking amazing fighter pilot and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and as soon as he says anything that's against the grain, yeah, I think he's a bit mental.
Yeah,
and it's the kind of same thing as Bob Lazar. Like, they probably were just, like, thinking about it for ages, and then they were just like, oh, Bob Lazar's, you know, like, he's doing... And then he was like, I can't let people not find out about this. But this is what I mean, it was completely classified.
Right.
So even... Because is it true that those guys used to have to fly into the base, right?
Yeah,
so they've got flight logs and
yes,
whatnot.
Yes, exactly, yeah. It would be a coach would take them to Las Vegas airport.
I'm sure that no, someone witnessed him. Someone had witnessed.
This is what I was just about to say. There's only one person, I think, that ever admitted, and it was, oh yeah, I saw Bob Lazar on that plane, and that's it. But they won't testify. Yeah. They'll just say
yes.
No one will.
Yeah, because they probably fucking work there.
Well,
and they're probably under classification, so they're like, yeah, I saw Bob Lazar, and that's the thing.
Sorry, JJ, go on. It
Oh
makes
no, it's
sense.
all right. We got a bit of lag again, so it's just like
it makes sense as well, as a lot of people sit there and they say to him, "Well, where are his friends from MIT and blah blah blah?" Like all these like
he had no friends. He definitely had no friends.
These full pictures of like da da da, and I'd sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, my dad barely remembers any names of people he went to school with, like, and he was born just a few years before Bob Lazar, and as well, they'll sit there and be like, well, why don't he contact his friends in the past? I don't think, like, those...
Yeah. Well, you remember what it was like with Facebook. It's like the rugby jock fucking dickhead wants to add you as a friend. You're like, fuck that guy. Yeah. I don't want to fucking be friends with him.
Right.
And he was a nerd, so he was probably bullied to the high heavens.
Right, and that's like, and as well, I heard the argument in people, because there was I can't remember, Tom Mahood, I think his name was, is a guy that tries to debunk Bob Lazar a lot or something like that. Yeah. To me, I was just he in a podcast that I'd listened to, that was saying that, like, so the simple evidence is where are all of his friends from the past, and I sat there and think, in that era at MIT, like, no one's gonna keep in contact with each other. And as well, I missed out that he got a master's in electronic technology at CIT, California Institute of Technology. Like, you're not gonna follow. You just, those sort of people don't kind of make friendships, I feel like.
I don't know anyone from school still.
I know, like, probably 3 people. Like, I just...
It's also as well, like, if that... Where did you say MIT was?
Massachusetts.
Which is the other side. It's like north of
East
New
Coast,
York, right?
Yeah.
So a guy who's spent a college time on the East Coast and then gone to the West Coast.
Yeah,
and I mean, again, without going like into that, like, I feel like I'm being like nerdist, but like people like that go to university to fucking learn,
study.
Like, I went to university. I think I went in like 1 day a week for fucking 3 years. I mean, that's why I'm thick. That's why I'm thick as fuck doing a conspiracy podcast about an intelligent guy. Like, that's basically how it is. But
I didn't go.
So yeah, you're more intelligent than I am then, because I'm still in debt to those cunt.
And that's what I'm saying, that those sort of people don't go to university to make friends. They're there to study. Like, they and then they go over to the West Coast, hundreds of thousands of miles away from all these friends that they've met. Like, I just that with regards to still in the topic of saying that his history and his past is all a bit murky. The rebuttals that I heard of, oh, where's all his friends, or why don't his friends come forward? One, that example that we've just given those people aren't there to get friends; they're there to study. So that's just like bullshit to me.
Yeah.
And secondly, if he did in fact have a handful of friends, I'm pretty sure that they would be kind of within the same sort of hobbies and interests and physical sort of like, and like be very similar to each other. And if they've seen shit that's happened to Bob after he obviously came out and exposed the fact that there's Area 51 there and stuff, do you really think that they're going to sit there and be like, yeah, he ain't talking shit, like, I've done this with him and blah blah blah, like, after he's being hassled by the government and tapped into his phones and shot at on the highway, like, do you think they're just going to come forward and be like, yeah, I'm friends with that Mr. Bob Lazar?
Maybe he was that shit at university. Maybe his friends are the ones who built the spaceships that he's backward engineering.
And
they're all just like, fuck you, Bob, I told you should have studied instead of doing drugs. But they've worked with that much radiation, they've shrunk into little green men. That he apparently, we'll get onto that, but
the whole entire world is in on the story, and there's just one guy who's just like, Bob still ain't got it. It's been 32 years.
So good.
But going back to Los Alamos as well, do you guys know how he essentially got the job? Are you guys aware of how he got into Los Alamos?
I think, he was just hired out of university for Los Alamos.
Barry.
Oh no! Sorry.
Yeah, you mean
S4.
S4.
S4. I
S4,
apologise.
he got it through an agency, right? And he thinks that he got it because they saw him in the paper with his jet bike.
Right. Yeah.
And they were like, they needed an outside of the box thinker. That's the only way because he doesn't believe that he should have got that job.
Right. Oh no. Yeah. Exactly. So in 1982, I'm going to read this correctly. Alamogordo Daily News, as Ben just mentioned, ran a front page story that had Bob Lazar on the front because he had managed to put a jet engine inside his Honda Civic. And I imagine when you're in the desert in like that area, I don't think you see very many interesting things. So I think for someone to be able to do that is like highly reputable. I don't think you'd forget that guy like too quickly. Right, exactly. So anyway, a day later, the physicist Edward Teller, he created the H-bomb, the hydrogen bomb, basically. He was giving a speech at Los Alamos, and Bob was at the event, and he noticed that Edward Teller was outside, and he had that local newspaper in his hand. And Bob went up to him, introduced himself. Oh, well, I'm the Honda Civic rocket guy there, and got talking with him, and ended up like kind of, I don't know, striking up a little bit of a friendship because I think towards the end of 1982 or around that area, that's when he got his master's in electronic technology at the California Institute of Technology. After that, he moved to Las Vegas and he started sending out like CVs to like local laboratories and national laboratories and stuff. But he sent a CV to Edward Teller, and Edward Teller then told him to contact EG&G, who were a defense contractor for Area 51 or that complex and S4. So essentially, he got the job from an incredibly reputable guy. Like he's dead now, but he admitted all of this when the guy was still alive. Like the guy that invented the H bomb.
So Edward Teller did admit that.
Well, I'm not sure, but Bob spoke about this when Edward Teller was still alive.
And this is the issue with those kind of guys. Like at the time, Edward Teller was probably like, yeah, I did meet him. I got him a job and blah blah blah. But now he's dead. Like it wasn't on Google, is it? It's not like, oh, I was there and
yeah. So like that's quite sort of people talk about like, oh, he should never have been able to have gotten a job at S4 because he couldn't prove his MIT degree and stuff like that. But yeah, it was that piece of information in saying, well, Edward Teller put me towards EG&G, the defense contractor, and if they come in and like, oh, fucking Edward Teller just recommended this dude.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you would immediately he should be classified. Like, right. If you've got a guy who's like built a fucking bomb that can take out a very large area, everyone around that guy would have been classified. Like. Right. You know, or to an extent, he would have been told that he can't tell, because it's Homeland Security, isn't it? Like, yes. You can't, because then it's essentially that, because in America, it's all about protecting America, isn't it? This is, I think, one of the major things. It's all to do with Homeland Security. This is why everyone with UFOs at the moment is like, we're not saying it's aliens, but it could be the Chinese or Russian.
Right, exactly.
Which are aliens to us. Like, and that's the big issue, I think. Yeah. And this is kind of where, like, and this Bob Lazar, apart from that one slip he made about seeing what he thought could have been an alien, which he never really said it.
No, he didn't. Said it
might have been a dummy. Obviously, we'll go into this, but
yes.
Apart from that, everything that he said is kind of pretty legit. Like, it's it's not like you said. It's not too far out there. It's not really
a lot of it's a lot of
it's not like wild, is it?
No.
A lot of it's come true.
Yeah, a lot of it has come true.
Like the element 115 was not no one had ever heard of it, and then suddenly they synthesized element 115 in 2013, I believe. So
yeah,
like, it was still
20 years later.
Yeah, he's been getting things right all along.
Yeah,
and there was no one knew about S4 or Area 51 before.
Right, that too.
he got because he was calling out that there was going to be the flight logs, the flights of the
Test
spacecraft
flights
on Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night
at
they
7
go up
o'clock.
there.
Yeah.
Dean's
So,
frozen.
so yeah, as we were saying, it like a lot of his, although his history is murky, as you're going through it with us, listeners, it's like not outlandish. It's plausible. It sounds, if it was to be made up, it's one of the best fucking lies that seems to connect really well, even when it's trying to be disproven. You know?
Yeah.
So
It's vague, isn't it? That's why it's quite vague.
Yeah, exactly. But there's still. Oh, yeah, I understand why there wouldn't be any paper trails if this one guy's just gone. Don't worry about everything. Just fucking sort this guy out.
Yeah.
Like I'm Edward Teller. Like
Yeah.
he's got a rocket powered on the Civic. You won't miss it. He'll be in the car park tomorrow.
Put a hydrogen bomb in his toilet.
So
suck his anus out.
So Edward Teller forwards him to EG&G defence contractor, to which he then gets employed by the US Navy to work at S4. He mentions another thing where people sit there and say, like, there's no way you'd forget that stuff. Like, Bob's unable to list the exact dates as to when he first went in to S4, like the exact day it was, and a few events after the first day, but we'll get to that in a moment anyway. So he arrives on his first day, and he's explaining that he's given a lot of documents to read through. And this was an interesting thing that I found out about it too. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, there was a few things that I learned about Bob that I thought I knew a lot about him, and I've read further and learned now. He was saying that these documents that these government officials are having him read through, he said he feels that it was like a test almost, or it was like a briefing document, but he felt like it was more of a what's the word I'm thinking?
Giving him information to leak out and just see if he'd done it. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Right. Seeds almost, like sitting there going, well, what we'll do with him. He said he mentioned on one piece of paper that there was an incredibly detailed picture of the anatomy of a grey alien. And he was like, okay, looking at that, and that there was pictures of the UFO, or one of them, that he would be working on. And that also that the spacecraft that they had came from the Zeta Reticula binary star system, like an area where.
Do you know what? When this is interesting, because when people call him out for being like a fake, it's when they refer back to when he's just talking about these like briefing documents that he was reading. He never ever claims that any of this is true. He goes, "Oh, in this briefing document that I read on day one, it said this." He never says the aliens came from here, but people try and call him out.
Exactly,
this is when I start thinking back to him being like fake or real. It's when people
so
come out
just,
and they go,
just going on to
fake. But it's not.
Going on to that document thing. Again, another little sort of story, completely not out there, but I was speaking to Ben a while back about how, and it kind of links in with the secret society thing again.
Sure.
They give you a little bit of things, and you have to kind of like analyze them, and it's then them analyzing how you do it. But I once auditioned to be on Big Brother when I was at uni, and the book was like this thick. I've already spoke to Ben about it, but it was like thick as fuck, like in the like later stages.
Yeah.
And some of the questions there were just used as collateral against you. They were like, name 3 things that your parents don't know about you that would embarrass you, like blah blah blah. So it's basically like, it's like sorting your like psychology out. There was like so many things, and I'm not joking. This thing that I had to fill out, yellow book, probably took
That's
me
insane.
Probably took me about 3 hours. And then they called me into this little room, and it was kind of like a bit of a humiliation thing. Like they put this I told Ben about it, but they put this pineapple on a chair, and I was like, "Do you want me to move this pineapple?" And they were like, "No, what pineapple? We don't know what you're talking about." But I can imagine that's what it's like to do that, to see, like, it's basically like a psychopath test or
psychological
test. A psychological, like, so, I mean, I can imagine that it was, imagine there's like 20 people there just like, they showed us these diagrams of fucking like aliens and shit, and we were like,
yeah.
As soon as, so it then goes on to the fact that his phone was tapped, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of the, so obviously I'll carry on about the file thing because
right, yeah.
This is where I get lost when he was working there. That's
right,
the
yeah.
kind of...
It's a big kind of mix up with working there. So, with regards to the documents again, and him mentioning that they said that the craft were from the Zeta Reticuli star system. A lot of people sit there and they say, "Oh, that's of course he would say that because that's the very famous." Location as to where the aliens came from who abducted Barney and Betty Hill. Do you guys know that? Yeah, Barney and Betty Hill. One of the most
interracial
infamous
couple.
Yeah, the interracial couple when it was illegal almost to be with another person of another race, and the fact that they divulged this crazy abduction story regarded as quite possibly the most plausible and believable abduction
and they went into
story.
regression with it as well. They did both of them did separate regression sessions. Regression sessions. That's what I have on a Sunday.
And they each drew out the Zeta Reticuli star system, didn't they? They were able to draw out the actual map of the star system that they came from.
Kind of like the flight map of where it was.
Right, and a lot of people were sitting there saying that, oh, of course Bob would say that because that's mentioned in that, so that's kind of making their abduction true. But as you mentioned, Ben, he did not say it's true. And if anything, he kind of dumbed it down himself. He was like, it was most probably a deterrent piece in the sense of if information did get leaked out, because I would mention these things, they'd be like, let's go through the graph, star system, Zeta Reticuli, Bob. Like,
yeah.
So,
and why would they show you that as your first fucking, like, your induction into the place?
Yeah,
like,
it's trickery.
If you go for a job interview, they don't teach you how to use the milkshake machine straight away at McDonald's, do they? They fucking get you filling up straws.
Here is our safe. The code is 70356. Moving on. Like, it's dumb, isn't it? It's like...
Unless that really is like entry-level like UFO thing. Like, they come from this planet, they got some fucking weird shit, they got this stuff in a jar that bends light.
Like three heads around the back of them, eyes hanging out their nose. Like, oh, don't worry, boys, you'll see.
Don't worry about them. Yeah, we just want you to look after their cars.
That's it. Do you want some coffee? Yeah, sure. But so that was another thing when it came to his history and stuff like that, with explaining what he was seeing on these documents on the first day, mentioning Zeta Reticuli and everyone being, oh, of course he would mention that. Again, disinformation piece. They know. If he leaks stuff, as he would do, they would sit there and know it was Bob. So I found that a bit of a loose rebuttal towards Bob. Although this is a conspiracy podcast, we're almost just defending Bob here at some point. At
well,
this
the conspiracy
moment.
is against Bob. The conspiracy, not if you know what I mean. That's what for me.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
For me, the conspiracy is like Bob knows something, and they're trying to shut him up, and they've been trying to shut him up since he came out as Dennis.
Yeah.
You know,
in 1989.
And he's still
doing really
to this
shit.
day he's still getting harassed by the FBI, and he's not really been able to have a life since.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Whether it's bullshit or not, like they've definitely tried to make his life hell since he came out. So.
Right. Absolutely.
So should we talk about his, like, from what I gather, brief time working there? Because like you say, he doesn't remember the dates, but did he say roughly like just over a year? Is that right?
I think that's correct, actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. So
should we talk about because so far, like, we're talking about this wild place, but we haven't actually said what is... We've claimed that he's been working on some crafts and stuff, but then...
Well, that's why I was
I'm just assuming that
days.
everyone listening to this podcast knows about Bob Lazar. So, Bob Lazar got a job at S4, which is a secret naval intelligence base. And his job was to work out how the propulsion system worked on an alien spacecraft.
Yeah. And it was a
and everyone tuned out.
No. And it was it.
That's where the retention goes.
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's aliens! I'm out.
So a lot of people
I
were
thought
mentioning.
It was nonsense again.
Oh, it's not about paedophiles. So
These guys are so old hat.
So I think he said it was on the third day that he visited S4 is where he started, and he met his laboratory partner Barry, and that he was being led down a corridor, and he was told to keep his hands by his side.
Yeah, because he touched one of the craft, didn't he? And it goes,
well, no. This was just before it when he met Barry, when he walked into the hangar or something like that. He was told. That's it. He ran his hand across the side of this, what he called the sports model, didn't he? Yeah. He was like, slaps it like a salesman. Boom.
Why? There's another thing. Like, that feels like a marketing thing to me again. The sports model. Like, what? Why? Like, is that just like a little nerdy joke?
Yeah.
Right.
I know it's just a little thing, but it's just like the sports model. LOL. You get me? You get me? Just like,
I guess
no, fucking Bob. It's a fucking spaceship.
It's probably not what he called it that day. The sports model.
Right. Okay.
Over a year of working there, everyone might have given them all like different, like, more human names. Like, oh, that's the sports model. There's the
all right. Okay. So that might have been a different type of ship.
Yeah.
Because there was 9, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was 9 in total.
I was just under the impression there were just 9 of the same ship.
No, there were 9 different.
They were all different ones.
All
different.
Which implies they probably have more of the same ship.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
Yeah. So that was on the second day. He met his lab partner, and that he then walked him through the hangar, and he saw like those 9 different ships. He said there was one, obviously the one that he's drawn and that you can see on the Jeremy Corbell documentary. He mentions one that's interesting. If I remember rightly, didn't he mention that there was one that was almost built like a box or something like that?
Yeah.
Like an oddly shaped one. And that is interesting because that was 2 things that Bob Lazar had said in the past, and Commander Fravor, like the Navy pilot on the USS Nimitz, I think it was, who saw the
Nimitz.
Tic Tac. Yeah, the Nimitz, sorry. He said that he saw this box-shaped object with a sphere in the middle,
surrounded by a sphere.
Right, and
so have you? I can't remember the name of it, but there's a really it's something to do with Jewish religion, and it's two triangular like pyramids inside each other, but when they rotate, they give the illusion that it's a circle and a square. So this is apparently where Da Vinci got his divine man from, is these triangles rotating with this, and it creates like a bit like a Tasmanian devil effect where you can see the Tasmanian devil, but it's also creating like a whirlwind. Yeah. Can't remember I'll find the name of the thing while you guys carry on. But this links to like ancient visions of gods.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, and this is like where that Fravor thing for me came into thing. I was just like, hang on a second, and a lot of people are getting that kind of symmetry and thing drawn as tattoos now because it's sacred geometry.
Right,
but
of course.
The actual thing is 2 triangles like the Star of David with a circle around it.
Yeah.
And apparently when you spin that at a high velocity, it looks like a square and a circle. So.
And that's what intrigued me about it, because I remember listening to Bob explain and describe on the Joe Rogan podcast what these vehicles looked like, and that's when I sat there, I was like, that's what Commander Fravor saw. And then another interesting thing was how he said the reactor for the ship that he was working on, how it travelled, that it would face its bottom side forward, and it would remove gravity in front of it, so it would fall through through time and space. And that's exactly what was videoed by the USS Nimitz. The Go Fast, not the Go Faster one. The
Gimble.
The Gimble video. And you can see it rotating, and like exactly the same way Bob has been explaining.
And he explains that the mechanism is all centrifugal as well. So like everything that's within it would be within a centrifugal gravitational pull, which would then make it possible.
Right.
Which, if you the device that I'm talking about is called the Merkaba.
The Merkaba,
which they believe was what brought Ezekiel to Earth, which is essentially and it's fucking mental. Like
So it's fun. Yeah, that shape is a godlike object or a symbolic object to represent a god. And Bob Lazar,
Which you could argue that they'd seen that and then gone, well, they've made that up from that, or you could be like, well, this is a coincidence.
Yeah, massive coincidence. So that's on the second day that he gets shown these ships with Barry. And as we mentioned, Bob slides his hand along a particular ship and said that he got absolutely reprimanded for it. Now, on the third day, I think he was being taken to where the reactor was in the laboratory himself and Barry were working on, and that he had to keep he was told while he was walking down the corridor he had to keep his hands by his side and look forward and don't look to the left or the right. Once we get to the end of the corridor, that's your room. And he said that JJ mentioned earlier that he had glanced inside a room and he noticed that there were two men in lab coats inside a room that looked like it had a small chair and what looked like, well, he said it looked like a child in the chair. And this goes on to when people are like, oh, he said it was an alien in there. Yeah, he did. And it's like, well, no, he's never, ever seen that. In the same, for want of a better word, tactic that he used in saying that, well, this is what I read. That's not what I said was there. This is what I read. It's almost the same as him sitting there being, well, I'm only telling you what it looked like I saw. I'm not saying that I did see an alien. It looked like there was a child or something that was small.
A doll or something. It was a dummy, wasn't it? He said a child or a dummy and then he later kind of went, it could have been to work out the dynamics of the craft. So they were kind of working out how this thing, which then in my mind, I'd be like, well, they've already worked out that it was controlled by, not man, but a conscious being.
Yes, yeah.
So immediately he was like, yeah, well, this is, it could be a dummy. He said they were trying to work out, weren't they, how this little thing would fit inside this kind of, but immediately, this is again with like news and stuff. Did he report that and then they went, oh, fucking idiot, thinks there's like green men in this thing. And then, and people ran with it because we're talking like 20, 30 years ago here, aren't we, that all this came out. Chinese whispers are like,
that's another. Well, that's another thing that goes on Bob's side is he sticks to his story. Every piece of detail or every bit of detail that he mentions, it doesn't seem to exaggerate. You look back at some of the videos that he went on like talk shows talking about what he was working on. His story doesn't change in any way, shape, or form. The fact that he says, I glanced, I saw something briefly. Like, if someone suddenly gets put in the center spotlight of one of the like most incredible topics on the planet that could possibly answer, are we alone here in this like blackness and vastness of space? This one nerdy dude has just like been put on like the center stage of the world. He's like, yeah, they're working on like alien spacecraft in that building.
What you were saying there, Dean, is like that's the thing. Like the whole UFO thing, it's the biggest conspiracy because it debunks everything. Right. Like it literally debunks
rewrites
everything.
History, science.
Like yeah, exactly. And the big one, which I think is, and it's always the one that like rings true for me, is like the religious thing. So like people basically still base life on religious views and like existence and like you say about God and things.
Yeah, right.
And I think that would be like we're all like going wild about all these fucking mental conspiracies about cabinets with kids in and shit like that. Like, chances are, if that's the case, all I'm thinking about is why are they doing that? That's all. I'm just like, they must be doing that because they know something about those fucking guys in those round spaceships where they just drink blood and they want children's blood and they want to ascend to that next level. Like,
and it's also so a person in that position that has just put himself in the center stage of the world to answer quite possibly one of the most impossible questions around, and he doesn't elaborate any further on this really basic story.
Because, like you said, that's so. You know what you were just saying there. Like, I know this. I can feel this is going to be a long one, and I'm trying to like hold back, but I'm so like passionate about this.
Yes, yeah.
So there's another documentary about a guy who apparently worked in, and this is why I'm so bad because I remember these things and they are legit, and I'll find it, and you'll just have to put it in the links. But there's another documentary about a guy who worked in another facility around Area 51, and he talks about how they bagged his head and walked him down, and then they would do like fake drills. Whether they were fake drills, but he said as soon as this alarm went off, we all had to drop to the floor, and you would be told by the guy who didn't have a bag on his head, you need to stay there, don't take the bag off your head, blah blah blah. And I got into this from a link from a Bob Lazar thing that I watched like years ago, so I'll try and find it. And the guy like was, I think in like 94, he was found dead. And everyone said he just went mental and it was all because of drugs and stuff. And I was like, the thing is, like, as soon as you assign that theory to it, people go, oh, drugs. It must have been the drugs that killed him.
Right, exactly.
We would go, it was the government that killed him. Yeah. And then a lot of psychologists would go, it was the trauma from something that made him take drugs that killed himself. Or, you know, something like that. And I think that's the difficult thing about Bob Lazar for me, because I'm like, if all this stuff was really, really important, I was 100% Bob up until the last week.
Yeah.
If all this stuff was really, really important, the government, regardless of him going out on a Wednesday night with his boys to like film some shitty footage that no one can find on a fucking Sony D5 fucking like tape cam or whatever.
Yeah.
Like why didn't they kill him? Is he that important that they might need him? Or is he...
Ooh, I didn't
that's what I was thinking. Because if he was the first person to study 115, he's going to be essentially the most intelligent person on Earth that knows about 115. Like, if he was the first person to discover it, and that's the fuel, like, you know, in Back to the Future, they need plutonium, and he's like, the only person he can get it from is the Libyans, but he sold them a pinball machine. A bomb with pinball machine parts.
That's it.
So they shot him. You know, maybe Bob Lazar is that important. Maybe he's... Because surely he would be dead.
Or is
he
it
would be
because
dead.
he came forward and he put himself in the public eye that this part of the government, the naval intelligence, aren't as fucking stupid as the Clintons and just getting Epstein offed. They're like, well, we can't kill him now because that's going to prove his story. They're like, if we kill him...
And that's what I believe.
If we leave him just spouting his bullshit, people aren't going to believe him. People just... Because... That, I mean, we're talking about him, but if he'd been off, they were like, "Can you?" And then Bob Lazar, that was all true because he was killed,
right?
But if you look at like us, when we always talk about Epstein, obviously didn't kill himself.
He didn't.
No one gives a fuck. No, but no one cares. Like everyone's just like, so what if he didn't? I'm like, yeah, but why? Why didn't he? He was like, I don't matter. Even if he did, I'm like, it's the same thing as Paul McCartney. Like, it doesn't really affect anybody, but you're just like. But I want to fucking know if he's dead.
It totally affects us.
Or who killed him.
It totally affects us because if they're killing people for knowing shit, then as soon as you know shit, you're dead. So like,
well, why are we doing this shit?
Because I want to know stuff. I want to know, and as soon as if they kill me for knowing, like, I want to know that I'm gonna get killed for knowing. Or I'm gonna kill myself. I want to know that I'm gonna kill myself. If I know, I'm gonna.
That wasn't a declaration, was it? We just have to point out.
No,
you need to put like you need
if
to
I
put like a
myself,
hotline.
If I do kill myself, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Oh my God.
But that's for me is why Bob wasn't off, because I think especially with UFOs, they just let people say it because they like
they make themselves look more crazy.
Yeah.
So how far are we into him working there? How far are we into him working there?
We're just
day
at the
one.
point. Yeah.
He went there for a year. Longest podcast ever. Retention has just come down to 1%.
We're an hour and 15 minutes in. He's worked there a day. He's not even gone public yet.
So he's not even gone public. Fucking hell, sorry, that tickled me at the last minute. So we're now at the day. We're now at the point. I don't really know at what point, what day this was when Bob finally got to work with Barry on the ship to actually go inside the ship and have a look around and work out how this gravitational reactor worked. And that was quite an incredible piece or explanation that Bob gave toward how this machine, when you attach, like, what was it, almost like a triangle of element 115 or the fuel, essentially, when you attached it to a certain thing, this unit suddenly worked. There was no on, no off. It just, as soon as that element was there, it knew to turn on. And it somehow created its own gravity, which I'm sure it is now. Although element 115 has been discovered and it's called something beginning with M now, isn't it?
Unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Which sounds fucking unattainable.
Yeah, unattainable. It's like I've got
Spell it out.
Anunnaki.
Unobtainium.
I thought it was called Moscovium.
Oh yeah, later.
I thought it was called.
It was when it was synthesized in 2003. It was called Monoscovium, but before it was called unobtainium.
Ah, right. Funny that. Right. So
clever. Funny these scientists, aren't they? How very droll.
Just pulling shit out of cannot be worked out Everatonium or something.
If my friend named it, it'd have been called Mike Patton.
The shark.
The shark, Mr. Shark.
Mr. Shark.
The element.
Mr. Shark. So yeah, he explains how this reactor worked on the Joe Rogan podcast, as well as on the Jeremy Corbell documentary, and then obviously in other interviews as well. And he says that it creates its own gravitational atmosphere that in turn can bend space-time, or it opens...
It can bend light.
It can bend light, but it does something where it distorts time and space through the power of gravity. And the way he explained it makes total sense. Harry was saying you put a big bowling ball.
Dean, to how we know nothing of science.
No.
But it has been proven that it's theoretical science, and it's Newton's theory of gravity. It's like basically if the theory was that we lived on a plane, which is like now being proven, NASA have just proved that we could quite easily be within a sandwich.
Yes,
of
of
gravity.
space.
Rather than an infinite, it's a sandwich.
Yeah.
Like a very long Subway sandwich.
Like a foot long of gravity. So sorry, Dean, I interrupted you with your bowling ball.
No, that's fine. He was saying that it's like placing a bowling ball on a soft bed mattress and pressing your fist down on the mattress about a foot away from it, so then the ball rolls to where the mass is. Yeah. And going back to Commander Fravo, how he was explaining that the ship would do this by having these gravitational like beam thrusters on the bottom of the ship that would then turn belly up to where the bottom of the ship would be pointing forwards in the direction that the ship wants to go. And these reactors or whatever would somehow distort gravity or space-time in front of them, so the ship isn't traveling through, but is being pulled. And the way that, to me, that's... I was trying to get to the point of where you hear in Hollywood they'll say, "Oh, the spaceship works in this way," and it sounds kind of, they make it like convincing, overly convincing, like it's absurdly easy. Whereas Bob explains this in the way as to, it just sounds so simple but impossible. If that makes sense to how I'm trying to explain this.
We've built our, like, as we've all gathered, we're not all scientists. None of us are scientists, I don't think. But the concept of our science is what we've created. So we've created an idea of science that is relative to our universe, our reality.
Our reality, yeah.
So that the issue is with, if there was something from another reality, it's very unlikely that they would have based their science like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is all science is based on, is numbers, obviously.
Sure.
It's very unlikely they'll have based it on that, because there's concepts that they work through telekinesis and shit like, without getting too west about it, because we're talking about Bob now.
Yeah.
Don't want to take the limelight away from that guy, but that's the thing. Like, everything that Bob's saying, from a science point of view, might not make sense. And the thing is, his whole conversation doesn't make sense. But if he's got this big fucking grand idea that he worked at this base, it's not gonna make sense, because if it made sense, the government would tell you about it. Like, the government would just be like, well, we might as well have everyone discovering this shit. If it's stuff that isn't attainable, whatever that element was, unattainable. Yeah, exactly. Just saying. The chances are that the things that they're keeping secret, and this again goes back to the Homeland Security element of it, if the US were the first place to find out about this element, they don't want to tell everyone about it, because then the Chinese might get it, the Russians might get it, and this isn't meant to sound like I'm against Russians and Chinese. I'm talking about like the big three. Metallica,
the big three.
The other two shit metal bands. But like that's the thing that I think now, which is like what the Stars are talking about a lot.
Yeah.
Is it's not the element of it could be UFOs. It could be, but they're more concerned that someone else has got the upper
technology,
hand
right? Yeah.
On them.
Right. He does. Then, he doesn't sort of overly dress up this like way the ship moves or the way the ship works.
He understands, doesn't he? He understands in his head. He logically,
he
like he's writing about it, and you're just like, oh yeah, Bob, I fully understand. Like, you know, when I get my bowling ball and put it on my bed, my whole body rolls over.
But like, he doesn't sit there and be like, and this thing charges up and it glows a bright light. He just sits there and says like, it just turns over like that.
And it's so boring. And
it's so boring and monotonous. That's kind of what I was trying to put across.
Again, it's like, that's the thing with me. We were talking about how his story hasn't changed, but when you guys will have been the same. When you've seen something and you say it to one person, it's probably slightly different to how it was.
Perceived it, yeah.
But then the more you tell it and the reaction you get from that person, it starts
you're
to
just
like...
gonna amp it up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, stag do's are the best example of it.
Right, exactly.
How was your stag do? The stag do got fucking wasted. And I was like, well, that sounds boring. It sounds like every stag do. And then he shit himself. And then he shit on a prostitute. And then he shit out a midget.
And then he fell in the river. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And then he died. And then he worked at fucking Area 51. He had this fucking hand scanner and it like detected how many bones he had in his fingers. And then the next thing you know, he was in the back of a van all blurry faced. And he changed his name to Dennis. Maybe Bob was in Vegas. Like maybe he just had a fucking mental weekend. It was like woke up in a strip club. Which we need to speak about as well.
Oh, fucking hell.
While we're on a bit of a tangent about Bob Lazar. I don't know if it's the time now. Ben needs to tell me. I can't tell whether he's frozen again. Oh no, his eyes are moving.
Oh no, sorry. I was reading about Bob's criminal convictions.
Oh,
right, which I think is probably a good time to speak about his conviction. Are we at the time?
We're not.
No,
we're not.
I don't know.
He's not. We need to do that when we come to the.
Okay.
Let's run through the timeline.
What we will touch on though, right, as I was talking about like the technology of or what was being used, the technology they thought of what powered the ship and stuff like that. But JJ touched upon just then a scanner that produces or it shoots a light through your skin through to your bones. Yeah, and it measures like either the length of the bones in your finger, because apparently they're like unique to absolutely everybody. And this piece of technology...
Can I just quickly interrupt a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just before you speak about this, you know what I was talking before about the Macabre, the triangle, and how the Da Vinci thing is based on that.
Yeah.
That's all based around the Fibonacci sequence, which is obviously it goes deeper than that, but the human body, just for everyone at home, this part here is twice the length of this bit. This bit is twice the length of that bit. So the idea...
Explain to people that aren't visually watching as well.
Oh yes, God, I keep forgetting we're on the radio waves. So I'm pointing to my little bit of my knuckle of my finger. That
tip of your finger.
The tip of my finger. That is twice, half the length of the next bit of your knuckle of your finger, and then the next bit of that is twice the length of the bit above that bit.
Oh, right.
So that goes on to the Fibonacci sequence, which Da Vinci was hugely into. So a lot of sacred geometry. And I'll let you continue, but the concept of that scanner, he says... What does he say? I'll let you do it, because I feel like I'm taking your...
No, I can't. If he mentions something specific, you know it, and I don't.
So he basically said that it was a very unintrusive way of, like, basically a DNA fingerprint.
Right,
so
yeah.
These bones in your hand, whereas in a fingerprint is just one part of your finger, the bones in your hand are a collection of, essentially... my maths
Lots
is
of fingerprints.
But, like, 32 bones in, like, just that part of your hand.
Right, yeah.
Which... are all unique to you. Like, they're 100% unique to you. And the fact that they're all, like, part of the Fibonacci sequence, which I just think is a bit of a weird, a bit of a stretch.
A bit of a link, though. There's something...
Yeah, a link to it, because he's talking about the idea of that ancient kind of...
thing.
The secret, which we should do a podcast on.
Yeah.
But...
So what? And this is interesting as well with the whole hand scanner thing that he puts in, because that was literally Star Trek talk back then when he released that. Like, everyone was like, "What? A light measures your bones in your hands, and you what?
Hogwash.
What is that?" Like, but what's incredible as well? He's been proven about that only just recently when Jeremy Corbell. Was doing the documentary. He managed to actually locate a picture and footage of it being used in a Russian like place or something like that. And Bob Lazar was just like, that's it. He was like, I never thought I'd see this like ever again. And it was a technology that was science fiction back then, and then like 30 years later or however long it is, like Jeremy Corbell's like, I managed to actually track it down. It's fucking real. Like,
I've heard you can buy one. You can buy one on Wayfair with an actual hand inside it.
Zing.
With actual bones.
And it's...
But yeah, he got that picture, didn't he? And
yes.
If I'm honest, I saw the picture. Is it on the documentary?
Yeah. So you can see in Bob's eyes, like, oh fuck, you found it. Like, this proves it. This proves it's there.
And that's like with his body language. I watched a few of those in the past when I first saw Bob on Joe Rogan. I specifically watched this creator on YouTube that is I guess a body reader essentially, and he's able to read people's body language to tell if they're lying and stuff like that.
I saw that. Yeah.
There's a couple of them are just, and they're just like, he looks like he's telling the truth. He's very fucking calm. His reactions, in my opinion, are very, very genuine. As Ben mentioned.
Rogan said that because they were talking with George Knapp on the George Knapp episode, which came out this week, I think.
Yes, a couple of days ago.
3 days ago.
How the night before the Bob podcast, they all went out for dinner.
I saw this.
Took Andrew Schultz, which is a really funny comedian. And
really
watch him
great comedian.
He took him because he goes, he's like got the best bullshit detector, and he goes, he's telling the truth, man. Like, it's like, because I can't tell if he's lying, and if he's telling the truth, that's a fucking awesome story.
Right.
Here's a theory that again, I think it's the same with all these things. The more you read into him, you're just like, oh, maybe not. But he mentions how working there was a really shitty environment, and they used to
Monotonous.
do like pulse chanting through the tannoy and stuff. And he believed it was a form of hypnosis. Did you remember that bit?
Yeah, I do vaguely remember that. Yes.
He said there's a part. It's not in Joe Rogan, and he briefly touches on it in the documentary. But he said working there was a really tense atmosphere, and he said that we all felt we were being like not brainwashed, but we felt we had this like looming like dread. You know when you're in a really tense situation and you can just feel something's going to happen.
Yeah,
and he said it was like pretty much like that all the time. But in the MK Ultra trials, in the podcast with this is a problem. I'm so shit with fucking names. The guy who wrote the book about Charles Manson, he talks about when these people are in the MK Ultra trials. He said when they were given LSD, they were given this like pulsive mantra sounds to listen to like guide them into a trance or like a trip. And Bob Lazar basically explains that. He said, when I was working there, at certain points of the day, there would be this, like, you know, I remember once I went on tour with a band, and at the beginning of it, they did this, like, backward masking thing, and they were just like, pay your taxes, go to school. Like, loads of, like, fucking shit
Do
like that.
drugs.
Yeah, do drugs. But yeah, I imagine, because this is another thing as well. If this all came out, that's another thing that they could use against you, saying, no, look, we didn't work on UFOs, but we're not going to lie, we did do this, like, mind manipulation thing,
Right.
which still doesn't sound as bad as working on UFOs, does it? Like,
No, exactly,
oh,
yeah.
you know, like, people go through hypnosis all the time, so what? Who cares? It's not UFOs. There's another, like, a contingency plan, just like, oh, well, you know. And I just found it interesting how he just said about how it just constantly felt like there was something there.
Yeah.
And, you know, if that's what he's saying, we could essentially, if body language experts can't get him, maybe he has been. Maybe he has been. Yeah, exactly.
Because it sounded like back in, like, as a kid and stuff like that, I imagine, or a younger guy, I imagine he was quite, like, rebellious in the sense of he put, like, a hydrogen engine in one car.
Exactly what when you were saying, I was like, he sounded like a rebellious cunt, because he was
He
just
did,
like,
didn't he?
I'm gonna touch this UFO, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, don't look left or right. I'm gonna have a look.
He puts
He's got that kind of like disobedient, like knobhead kind of feeling. Not like naughty kid, but like know
He's
it
like the
all.
cool
Like,
kid.
I'm gonna do it. Well, I will.
Yeah, or he just sounds like he
But
looks
it's
like
like
that
a Richie.
loner at the back that's super smart, that sits there and, like, you catch eyes in class and he just goes like, watch this, and just puts two chemicals together and throws it on the floor and it goes bang. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they didn't off him. Maybe they could tell that by that fucking form that he wrote, that he was just like, he's that rebellious, he won't conform, and if he does come forward, people won't believe him because they'll have stuff on him that'll just be like, he's fucking mental. Like,
And that
just
makes it-
let him go off.
And that makes sense as well, because that again, we're going in so many different directions of Bob's story at the moment. He
3
runs-
hours in.
Yeah, he runs a like a display firework fest or something like that. Do they call
Desert
it?
Blast Fest.
Desert Blast Fest, and all they
Cool
do
name.
is just shoot guns and set off like custom made fireworks.
He's been
and that.
arrested. He's been arrested for like fireworks and stuff. So
Yeah, and like on their list of rules of when you go out to the desert to like partake in this like explosion festival or whatnot, the list of rules are like, if you get hurt, it's your fault. If you don't bring enough water, it's your fault. Like the list of rules that he has are quite sort of, they're quite like sociopathic.
yeah, but
Smug and
isn't they, as well?
sociopathic, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
so that's it does seem quite rebellious.
Seems like I can't really put my finger on it, like what the word is, but he's got like that kind of like, he's a bit of an arsehole, isn't he? Really.
He's just cheeky, but he's really good at it. And like,
But like
yeah,
in a
that's-
like, but I'm better than you, kind of like I'm no better. I'm more intelligent, like
Right.
But then, at the same time, like he says, he wishes he hadn't come forward
yeah.
because it
I
wasn't
bet, yeah, I
worth
bet
it.
his life has been an absolute fucking
He
mess.
said he gets death threats, like daily death threats.
That's weird, man. That's
Yeah.
so strange.
But then, so George Knapp was on Rogan and he was talking about like the first 15 minutes, I think it is, and it
Yes.
really kind of got me. It's like the amount of people that have come to him saying, "I've got information, I can talk, I want to talk about it," and within a matter of days, they've they've retracted their statements.
Yeah,
and
they
gone,
don't
no,
want to.
and because they've had people breaking into their homes, people attacking them, like people scaring them, like
shooting
so
the car
it must-
tires out.
Yeah, it must be.
I just had a little bit of a break then. I think the word you're looking for is smarmy.
Smarmy is the right word.
Yes.
All
It is
right.
smarmy.
I just went for a quick piss, so I was just like, I could hear you. I was like, it's smarmy he's looking for, because I've got the same face.
OGsocks.co.uk,
Oh, yeah.
promo code NAC,
20%.
Yeah, I like that.
20% off.
20% off.
OG
So we,
Socks.
So yeah, going back to Bob working on the reactor on the ship, a small little note that we can touch on is that he believes he was hired for the job because Barry's past lab partner had apparently died. And that's what he was led to believe. Again, he never said, I didn't know of a person dying.
Yeah, he said he got too close to the reactor and died or something.
Yeah, or got vaporized or something like that.
Another reason he thinks he was employed is because he thought outside the box and because he put a nuclear reactor in his car.
And a particle accelerator in his bedroom.
He goes, it's the only reason. He's like, I was like different, and they needed a different.
Right, and so it goes for about 6 months that Bob is working at S4 with Barry, trying to work out how this reactor worked. But on the lead up to him being employed and on the lead up to these 6 months of him working, with his employment at S4, he agreed to a lot of terms and conditions with regards to like surveillance on his life. Like he was asked if it was okay if the local authorities and the national authorities bugged his phone so they could listen to conversations, know certain details about his private life and what he does outside of work and blah, blah, blah. He agreed to it all. But now during the 6 months as well of him working at S4, he would be called into the base at like any moment. I found that fucking crazy. Like he'd say he'd get a phone call at 11 p.m. at night and they would say you need to be at the McNamara terminal in 45 minutes, and then he would get on a small plane that would then take him to a landing strip that he'd then get into a bus and they would go into the facility. And it was during that time that he was going into the facility at like different times and leaving the home, is at the same time that everything started breaking down for him. It turned out that his wife was also unaware of what he was working there for. So it's no wonder that they ended up getting divorced. Could you imagine working or
she was
being
cheating
married?
on him, wasn't she?
That's what I'm saying. That's what's getting to the part as to when everything starts falling to pieces and then it starts leading to Bob coming out, is because he was working at S4 and his wife couldn't know about it. She thought he was having an affair, to which she then goes and forms an affair with his with her flight instructor. So then Bob's explaining that they aren't going any further with this reactor. They got to a certain point that they understand how the element fits into the reactor, how the reactor does work, but they can't build it with the technology, or they don't think that they can build it with the technology.
It was like he said it came to a pretty much a dead stop, didn't it? They couldn't get any further.
The technology wasn't advanced enough on the planet to be able to replicate something like this.
Just before we sorry man, I can't.
Good.
This whole sinking thing is we need to get it. I'm just interrupt 'cause I'm pissed, but going back again, just as a little tidbit. When you talked about how he would be called at any minute and blah blah blah, that is again another part of initiation techniques that a lot of the biker gangs and things use with their employment system. But when you are prospecting, you would essentially be on call 24 hours a day. So you would be for X amount of time you would be called up at any point to. I have a friend who's, I don't know actually how much I can talk about this, but I have a friend who's a prospect in a gang, and he was saying that he would be called up at like stupid o'clock in the morning, and it would just be to like take the piss, like bring me a banana or bring me like something stupid. But like he was fully aware when he sort of signed up to that would be part of his. That would be part of his prospecting. Just another technique to like
drill you in, like
and grind you down, like. You know when like I'm on a Sunday night, I'm just like fuck, I have to go to work in like a day,
right? Yeah,
and I'm still just like I can't sleep, you know. I'm like getting really, and you know, imagine when it's like 24/7. Same as like fire brigade and stuff.
Yeah,
you can't really have a life, can you? Which then does link in again to his wife as well, like you said. She thought he was having an affair, blah.
But he was in fact working at this secret military base, as though he claims that he was.
Oh, was he? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's like another thing that I feel that people that they like can't disprove or anything like that, or that nobody seems to touch upon. Like they don't sit there and there's this factual evidence for the fact that it happened, that Bob ended up having being accused of having an affair by his wife, because he was disappearing and going at like any like hour of the night to this like secret facility that she was unaware about. Why has no one been able to sit there and go, so what was happening between these 6 months? Because the people that don't believe Bob Lazar are like, no, he never worked there because he's lying. But what about these 6 months that led to the divorce and like this breakdown in his marriage? What happened between that?
This is now where I'm like, my timeline just gets a bit skewed. Am I right in thinking that? So there is another wife, which sadly she apparently was that after or this wife?
Well, I think it was this wife, like 2 years later or something.
Okay. No, I don't think it was. I think it was the next wife.
Right, it must be the next one.
He got back with the other one, didn't he?
Ah, yes, you're correct.
But this is where Bob's story gets a bit whack, right? This is where, again, stop me if I'm wrong, but this is where the timeline is where he started knocking around with hookers and stuff, right?
Right, now I don't know.
Am I going too far now?
No, you're not, because I'm not too sure when he started getting in that business. So, but Ben also saw that he's got his criminal convictions up. So
the narrative, the actual like, and I think everyone's admitted this, so it's not like wild, but the sort of other idea is that instead of him going to this base, he was actually going and meeting his mistress, who in turn happened to be a prostitute. And he was like, well, Ben mentioned earlier on about how he said he'd build a website for her, and I was like, I'm not sure about, but I know that he got.
What do you want, big boy? Well, HTML.
Yeah, I just want like loads of pixels to make tits. I just want to sell tits.
Yeah, what have you got in your pocket, Bob? Wouldn't you like to see my website?
Bearing in mind at the internet at the time, it was, for people who were listening, it probably went, da-da-da-da, that's 1 pixel. Da-da-da-da, that's 2 pixels. Da-da, like basically like a fax machine, but you know what the internet is. But yeah, so the Ben might be able to back me up on not back me up, but like follow me up on this one. So he started, apparently at this time had a mistress, and he wanted to help her out, so he said he'd buy her a brothel, I think, which was like Bunny Ranch or Cat Ranch or something like that. And Nevada is like one of the only places in America where prostitution's legal.
Oh right, I was totally oblivious to that.
Yeah, it's legal within a building, so you're allowed to do it indoors.
Yeah.
And apparently, so these are one of the convictions that he has against his name. So like, he's a great scientist, but he just loves prostitutes, which immediately voids everything good he's done. He's just like, you like prostitutes, you can't be a scientist. Look, they're the ones who fucking want prostitutes, man, because no one's gonna have sex with them because they smell like nuclear waste, and they talk about fucking aliens all the time. They're just like, I'm starting to think what it's like working with me, but I just smell like blood and. I just talk about aliens all the time, yeah. But so yeah, he got arrested for helping out a brothel, because I'm not sure at the time it was legal, but it is now. So
right. So what was?
So that's one of the things against him. Sorry.
Right. So that must have been during this period that could then have been held against him in the sense of like, well, where was he going if it wasn't S4?
Yeah. So that is, and again, the timescales are weird because it's like. He said he can't remember working there. So I think he's admitted. He said he did have a friend. I mean, he has to, because it was like he was arrested for it, and I think he was charged for it. Yeah. So it's on his record. Like that's all there. All those things are on his record.
Down, and he got arrested, and then it was reduced to felony pandering. So it got from aiding and abetting a prostitution ring to like pandering.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As soon as you say aiding and abetting a prostitution ring. That makes it sound like you're like, oh, I'm fucking like government, like not government, but like global, a ring. Yeah. It was probably like 3 chicks who we met at the Golden Nugget one night, like when he was probably fixing a fucking like a one-armed bandit, and these chicks were like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have been to Vegas, but they're fucking vultures.
No,
you win $20 and they're there like fucking Nosferatu, like poking over the fucking top of the thing.
Nosferatu.
Oh, we were there once, fucking playing there, and like our guitarist won like $100 on something. And next thing, it's like a swarm of fucking vag, just like whoa. We were in like a really shit one, to be fair, but and they were all like, they love us. I was like, no, they don't. They just
No, they don't.
They want
They're
$20.
brass, mate. They're brass.
Yeah. So that, like, I guess, so possibly the criminal convictions could have maybe happened in that period. Ben, like, what, was there another one you said you'd found?
He got I've lost it now. He was done for fireworks. It was fireworks.
Just, it's like, what was it? Yeah, no, I remember reading that one actually, and it was like the sale and transport of illegal, like, grade gunpowder or something like that. And it's like, he just made a firework with too much gunpowder in it or something.
He was, United Nuclear was fined with $75,000 for violating a law prohibiting the sale of chemicals and components used to make illegal fireworks.
Just to clarify, that was
Stitching him
later
up.
than all this, wasn't it? This
that
was
later,
when
one.
he started his... I think if I'm not wrong, he also got done for some form of money laundering, but I think that was probably to do with the prostitution ring.
Right, yes, okay.
But the prostitution thing was at the time of all this, so he's still working in the mountain...
The laboratory, yeah.
Shack carved into the mountain.
Yeah.
Just to point out as well, like, for the listeners, if they... Because when I watch podcasts, I never do the research, as you can probably tell. But, like, the research facility that he apparently worked at, which they still kind of deny. They say that there's one there, but I think you just imagine it as like a shitty cafeteria. But it's the dirt track is about 7 miles long, and then it just
look at this on Google Maps.
Goes into a mountain. It goes into a mountain which is like 40 miles wide. So you're just it could be a mile wide, or it could be 40 miles wide, and then 500 miles deep, and it goes to Algarve. Another conspiracy podcast.
Today I've spent trying to find people debunking Bob's
Lazar.
story, because obviously all I've ever seen is Bob talk, or documentaries about Bob, or someone talking about Bob who knows Bob. I've never actually listened to a debunker.
Yeah.
So today I went all out trying to find debunkers, and there's not a lot of them. And the ones that do, they like heavily like up what he was trying to say so they can bring it down further. If that makes sense.
I understand.
So like with this the Papoose Lake Groom Lake S4 thing, they go, well, according to Bob, there's a secret base here hidden by holograms in this mountain. Clearly there's no room for the, and then like they're slagging him off, and then obviously there's someone debunking the debunking. You go, well, Bob actually didn't say it was there, and you can see there's a track going straight into it.
Yeah.
So that's where I've struggled to not believe Bob, even though I'm still not sure if he's telling the whole truth.
The whole truth, right? Yeah.
When people try and debunk him, I think because his story's so vague, when they try to debunk him, they have to sort of zhuzh it up a bit.
Yeah.
Like,
they have to give it some spunk, don't they?
Yeah, to kind of make it debunkable. Otherwise, they're like going, "Oh, he might have done that." Like, how could you?
I'm starting to think that he came up with the idea about the prostitutes himself, because he's just like, I spent my whole life playing with fucking rockets, and I haven't had sex. I haven't had sex once.
I haven't used my old rocket in years.
Oh man.
And the fact that his wife left him for a pilot, she probably left him for one of the little pilots who was in the fucking those 9 machines in the thing. He's like, hello, is this where Bob lives? Yeah, can I come in here? Do you want to have sex with me?
We've got a delivery from Wayfair for Bob Lazar.
Hello! I don't know why he's from Southend. Hello! Are you Bob Lazar's wife?
Oh, I'm gonna piss myself. Oh, stop.
She's like, I'm a pilot trainer. Oh yeah, I bet you are. Do you want to come in my spaceship? And just sucks her innards out. And well, no, she actually did die.
Where's the cockpit?
Wanna touch it?
Wanna touch it?
I love you to play my flaps.
We don't have flaps around here. We just use gravitational pull.
I like to get my gravitational pull on you. that makes no sense, that one.
But, like, all jokes aside, Bob Lazar's wife did later kill herself.
Oh, so,
Did she?
right,
Yeah!
right. We'll get to
I'm
that.
laughing at that.
I really need to use the bathroom. Hold on. I really need to use the toilet. I won't be a moment.
OGsocks.co.uk.
Oh, Bob Lazar. Fucking hell.
Right. So,
Bob.
okay,
Bob.
after okay, we're back after that tiny little toilet break. We were talking about the 6 months during Bob's employment at S4 and how I think it was after around 6 months he said that everything then started to go south. As we briefly mentioned during the hilarity that ensued, we mentioned that his wife assumed that he was having an affair because he was disappearing at certain times in the night to go to S4 as he is employed to do so. To which she then struck up an affair with her flight instructor. And then after that, Bob noticed that he wasn't being called in to S4 anymore. And it turns out that they, well, at least he... Oh, no. Sorry, I was skipping ahead of myself ever so briefly there. So, during this period where he's not getting phone calls from S4 or he's not being asked to come in, he senses that something is up as well because of the fact that his wife believes that he's having an affair. He then decides to take, on 3 separate occasions, 3 separate friends out to a particular area. Can't remember. I think it was on Papoose Lake. Was it?
No, it's Groom Lake.
Groom Lake.
Groom Lake. He takes
Every Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. because apparently there's less traffic on the ground, and apparently they hold test flights for the craft that they are working on. So on 3 occasions, Bob takes separate groups of friends out to Groom Lake, and they end up observing these test flights, or at least what he says they are.
And there's video footage of these on YouTube.
There is
and
indeed.
They are really blurry, and you can't see anything.
Dog shit. Yeah.
But then
What you can't see though is like the typical navigational lights that are on aeroplanes. But
right, exactly.
That's
yeah.
about it.
Bearing in mind it's in the 80s and like it's filmed on like a huge camera in the middle of the desert in like pure darkness. So all they're doing is observing
and
out of focus,
and it could be a video of anything.
Right, exactly. But he knows the fact that there's nothing in the sky at that point, and he brings these people out to this area to witness these test flights at this particular time. And on the 3rd one, he ends up saying that he noticed there was a green light sort of in the distance, like that was pointing towards them at like their level, and that it hit the floor and rolled towards them. And it turns out that they flicked the lights on the Winnebago, and it turns out that there was loads of security forces around them that had been watching them, observing these lights. That's one part in the story where I sit there and I'm like, that sounds so dumb. That sounds straight out of a Naked Gun sketch or something like that. Just about 100 security personnel around these poor guys that are sitting there going, wow, look at that UFO, like Winnebago around, and one of them drops the night vision bloody goggle or whatever, and it just rolls towards them. I was a bit like, oh, fuck off. You could have come up with something a bit better than that.
Maybe he was trying to find his wife cheating on the airline pilot. Maybe that's what he was trying to do. He was just like, I'll use my super telescope to see whether she's in that aeroplane or that UFO.
So was that
because
he used to go with Lear, didn't he? The guy who owned Learjet.
John Lear, yeah.
Has he substantiated that happened on that last trip?
I can't remember, but
they did it 3 times, right? They did it over 3
Yes.
weeks, and that was it. 3 weeks of test flight footage, and if I'm right, all the footage is pretty much exactly the same.
Yes.
So as that guy, like what Ben just said there, has he kind of ratified on it? Has he just been like, yeah, this is what we
I
did?
don't know myself. I can't rightly remember. I mean, why did you associate his name with him, Ben? Is it because he's claimed to have gone along?
John Lee said he did go.
So that's quite like, that's a big deal in my opinion.
There's a difference between him. Did he go and see anything, or did he just go?
They all went. they all like every time they went, they saw stuff.
That's quite.
So what happened to that guy? Where did he go?
John Lear. I'm trying to find it now.
Is he just? And this is the thing with everything with Bob Lazar. It's like he's got all these friends backing him up, and maybe he was just a really. Because I mean, again, going back to the psychology of it, at the time he thought his wife was cheating on him. You become like a little bit paranoid. I mean, we've all had breakups. We all kind of know like the mentality. But then, if again, no one really knows like how nuclear stuff plays with your fucking head. Like it might might have a psychological effect on you. You know, apart from like absolutely incinerating your bones. But he might have been like, you know what, let's go, work this kind of shit out. Because if again, there's no one who can collaborate that. You know, he says he went, but did he say that he was like, oh yeah, I saw some shit, man.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So so they've been out into the desert. They've seen these lights. Third time they go out, they get arrested basically by the security forces around the area. And now again, this is the way they were found. Just sounds like something out of, like I said, a Naked Gun sketch. It just sounds very comical. To which then he says that he's reprimanded, brought into the base and debriefed, and they let him go. Like,
okay, so he was still working there. So they were.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, he was still contracted. He hadn't been told his job was terminated. He was only ever like brought into the base with a phone call. So he was not contacted to say his contract had expired and that he wasn't welcome anymore. So they brought him back in to the complex or the military base, and they said to him, he claims, they're like, you realise we told you this was confidential, like for a reason. Now, it's and that they also mentioned that was he aware that of why they hadn't been calling him, to which they then mentioned that we know that your wife's having an affair. So he now finds out about that, and the reason that they weren't calling him back in is because his home life was now considered unsteady because his wife was having an affair.
And psychologically unsteady as well, because that, like what we were just, like I was saying there, it's like,
right,
are you mentally aware, well enough to work again?
Yes.
Like, see, the government are nice. They're looking after his best interest. They're like, we don't want you like messing around with this nuclear. He's just there like, oh man, my life's worthless. Putting his finger on the end of that pyramid, just like, and then he's sucked in, and he's like in fucking Zedler Reticular or whatever it's called.
But this is another thing. Like I mentioned about the way he was captured, it just sounded, no, it's too straight out of a comic book sort of thing. Yeah. And with this, he says that they reprimand him, bring him in, say to him, you realise that was confidential for a reason because those are clearly ships from a completely different planet, or we've archaeologically digged them up from wherever that some people have claimed, or that he says some people claim that they were from archaeological digs because they were so old and that one had a chunk missing out of it. Oh, you realise that's all confidential? And then they let him go? What? Like, it's just, they let me go home. Really? You've just seen these things that, like, you shouldn't really be able to comprehend because you've never, ever seen them before, and in your reality this shit doesn't exist, and that you've just gone and taken a group of people out into the desert and sitting again, that's them things, and they just let you go with like, don't do it again. Oh, by the way, your wife's cheating on you. There's a door over there. See you later, Bob.
Yeah. Do you think they had enough stuff on him they might have had enough stuff on him at the time, like, because like I say, the prostitution ring, they might have had enough stuff on him then just to be like, look, again, you also don't know, like, he hasn't claimed any money from anything. Maybe they just said, look, here's a fucking massive chunk of money, carry on your story because no one will fucking believe you. Like, they would have said that to him, but imagine they just probably went, oh, there you go, there's a fucking X amount of money, go and make your fucking fireworks and have your little Burning Man festival in your field with all your nerdy pals, and go, look, there you go, there's 20 grand, go and build another fucking Honda Civic with an F6 engine in it,
or something like that.
F2 engine, whatever.
But yeah, that's one part of the story where it then leads to him getting to the point of being in contact with George Knapp and exposing Area 51. That tiny little build-up just doesn't feel right. even after you've just explained that, JJ, I'm still like, I can't believe they just let you go home. Like, you've just witnessed and shown
No
people
one else got
these...
to go home, did they?
Yeah, well,
theory.
yeah, apparently Barry's stayed there.
No one else
the
has
thing
ever
with
come
the
forward about it. That's either... That's where I get lost. It's like, no one else...
Yeah,
No one
not
else?
one other person.
Not one
But
other
this is
person.
where again the psychology part of it comes in, I think, because I'm like, it's the same as anything to do with like confidentiality. The mentality of people is that I know something more than you. Like, you know, you've been to Tenerife, I've been to 11erife. Like, there's that kind of
You've got
idea
one shed,
that
I've
you're
got
just
two sheds.
exactly, and it's one of them things like, if he is the minority, because there's people who are obviously there, and they probably feel privileged that they're working on, let's say they are working on something
Advanced
confidential.
technology, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably like, the kids at college, the colleges that he went to, they're probably like, well, this is the reason why I don't like people, I just like science. And he's just like, well, I do like science, but I also like the idea that I'm, you know, like, I'm
a whistleblower.
unearthing something that's...
Yeah.
out of this world, man.
Yeah.
His reaction to it and what he's done with his knowledge is exactly what his personality would have done. It's oh well, if I can't do it, then no one can. That's
Right.
I love
Bob-
how you're
if
just
Bob's
like,
not
he's a
allowed-
smarmy cunt. I hate him.
I hate the smarmy prick.
So it's now got to the point where he realises that shit's up at home. His wife's having an affair. He's just been reprimanded by his employers for showing these people UFOs, and he's just been told to go home. So now he's sitting there thinking, I know all of this information. The government also clearly know that I'm breaching confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements and this, that, the other. Now it gets to a point where he meets this journalist called George Knapp. I can't recall how George Knapp and Bob Lazar came to meet him. Was it
What Ben said about he saw the newspaper article, and he said, "You are fucking mental." Like, and I'm not sure. Again, this is where those lines get blurred, because I've heard so many. Or I say heard. It's not like people have told me.
Did he approach George Knapp saying, "I've got information"?
Yes, that's what I was led to believe, but I can't remember how.
So the one thing that stuck out for me the most is the because we haven't skirted over it, but this is one of the ones where I'm like, this is grasping. But he apparently grabbed some of the nuclear reactive fucking stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Just put it in his jacket. Yeah,
Just
He
got
kept
out,
it like a hollowed out
a hockey puck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was made of like super mental metal. Again, not the big three, not Megadeth or Slayer. The other two, the other shit ones that I said. But George Knapp was a pretty big presenter on one of the big three
Public access news channel, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it was a good one though. I think George Knapp had briefly worked on CNN. If I'm
George
not
Knapp-
He
mistaken.
was highly regarded. Well, he
Yeah,
is.
he was an investigative journalist, and he'd infiltrated mafia gangs and loads of organised crime and stuff. But he also liked the alien stuff, so he'd always kind of delve in there a bit. But he's still regarded as an amazing journalist, and that's why people let him get away with the UFO stuff, because he was so good. And he was so he was so on point. Like he spent something like 6 months proving that Bob Lazar was who he says he was before he would do the story.
Yes, yeah, and that's, I think, where the story really starts to sort of, I guess, solidify in a way, like, because of the likes of someone like George Knapp getting in contact with him, and obviously, like he said on the Joe Rogan episode with George Knapp, how he became a ufologist in like 6 months. He like read everything quite like that was on the surface of that sort of like field of information, and that he was doing this purely to be able to see, like, is this dude really talking like shit, or is he really talking the truth? Because
I mean,
it's hard to tell right now.
I don't want to be that kind of devil's advocate kind of thing. Like, we obviously navigated to doing what we're doing. Yeah. we navigate to being what we're doing now is because we all have a general interest in that concept, and I think I can speak for all of us that we, even though the whole like everything we've spoke about the last like couple of weeks, we don't want. It's not that we don't want that. We don't want fucking child sex trafficking to be a thing, but we just want to know the truth. And I think the problem is with, I find like over the 30-year span that Bob Lazar's met all these people, he's gonna meet people with the same interest. So he's gonna meet people who are just like, come on, come on, tell. And he's like, like maybe having a pat on the back from like cool kids, like the cool kids at high school. Like you can tell Jeremy Corbell or whatever he's called. You can tell he was like. You can tell he's just like a fucking cool guy, and everyone wants to be around him. And even though they were like,
I think the opposite.
Because you don't like him. He's another fucking smarmy cunt you don't like. But
I think Corbell is trying his hardest just to be friends with Joe Rogan, and he thought aliens was the way in.
That's what I thought the first episode was like. But now he's sucking him off.
Only way I'm getting on Rogan is if I've got a fucking brilliant UFO story, or if I meet Bob Lazar because he loves Bob Lazar, and I feel like that's the only reason that Corbell is doing what he's doing, because he wanted to be Rogan, and now even he's starting to look like him.
Speaking from like Ben especially, like 'cause you do this as a job, like not ufology, but you do video production as a job. The Bob Lazar documentary was absolute garbage. Like the part right near the end, like we'll get onto it, but I'll just speak about this part. There's a part with a text message.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm pretty sure there's a thing at the bottom, and it was like 3 minutes later. And the fucking time code on the text message is like a different date and a different fucking time. You know, where he's talking about burying the phone. I'm like, if you're not a fucking idiot, you would have fucking just got rid of that and forgot about it and pretended like it's not there. Because, for one, you shouldn't have said that it was an iPhone, because he was quite obviously using that. But two, just get rid of the fucking time code. It was a fucking day later. It was like the first message, 21st of May, 2016. Second message, 3 minutes later. It wasn't 3 minutes later. It was nearly 3 fucking days later, mate. Like, get your fucking shit together. You look like a fraudster. But is he a disinformant guy? Is he like, we talk about like the old disinformants.
He's just a storyteller. He's not a very good filmmaker, but I think he's got like, he's made money somewhere else and then he's gone into filmmaking. Yeah,
he seems like a bit of a narcissist. Like he's like, he feels like he's got that. He's probably a Libra. I'm a Libra, by the way, but he's probably got that element of him that's like. He's probably got that element of him where,
just sitting there doing this. I've got that degree.
Exactly.
As a filmmaker, like, and firstly, I don't go filmmaker, like he does. He's constantly saying filmmaker. But
if you turn his chair around, it says Ben Mills director on the back.
It does. Yeah. I don't put myself in my fucking films. I don't put myself in. But he's all over that film. He's like, the opening scene, he's in the middle of like salt flat, putting the camera down and
just
walking. Up to it. I'm like going, and he's got Mickey Rourke narrating.
Mickey Rourke!
Yeah. But like
Mickey Rourke just absolutely rambling shit.
Bumble, shit, bumble.
They say that Earth is the only place on this universe, but I know that.
We know what life is. You wake up in the morning, you spill your coffee on your knee, then you stub your toe on the door handle. Is that the echoes of the past coming to reprimand me one more time?
That's exactly it. That's perfect.
It is, isn't it? It's what is
We're going to get done for copyright infringement.
It's word salad. That's all it is.
Turn Netflix off. I can hear Netflix.
I can
That's
totally.
So good.
Mate.
So, I need one of them. I need that.
So we're now at the point where Bob is meeting George, and like Ben, you were saying that George Knapp had a UFO section, or like a paranormal UFO section on his show,
doing like the paranormal bits and stuff, because he loved all. He was the guy that brought Skinwalker Ranch to the
surface, to the government. Yeah.
Because then Bob Reed, I think it was Bob Reed, brought it off him. But Bob Reed basically stole the story off him. Brought the ranch, and then got the government to give him a fuck ton of money to do research on it.
Right, of course. Yeah, so I do remember.
I think it's Bob Reed or someone like that. Anthony Reid, something Reid.
Yeah.
And
Lou Reed.
It could be Lou Reid. It's such a shitty day.
An animal decapitation day.
So George Knapp was heavily into Skinwalker and that, and he knew loads about that. So he had a UFO past, and he's continued it on. Like, that's his main bag now.
Yeah. So Bob then arranges to go on live television to record, or George Knapp manages to convince Bob to record a testimony video, or at least a video of him explaining absolutely everything after they have done this live TV thing of Bob explaining that, well, Bob Lazar is in the back of like a van with a silhouette casted on him, and he names himself Dennis, and ends up explaining, saying, yes, I am a scientist that works at a place called S4 on Area 51. They have extraterrestrial craft in there that's not of this world, blah, blah, blah. And as JJ mentioned earlier in the podcast, you can totally see that it's Bob. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, you can see that the shadow is in fact Bob Lazar. So George Knapp then... So Bob Lazar has now broken the lid on Area 51 and this secret military base that exists in the middle of the desert that nobody was aware of at the time. It's now, like we spoke about earlier, right at the beginning of the podcast, how he has just blown the lid on one of the most impossible question to answer, and it's still just a really surface level sort of thing, nothing sensational or anything like that, but it just becomes this global phenomena, and it's to this day, like, we refer to Area 51, and it is all thanks to Bob. It was like, for instance, in Independence Day, when Will Smith's walking across the desert with the alien in behind him or something like that, and he was like, there's a military base in the middle of the desert, and the guy says, it's not on the map, and it's like, trust me, it is. It's kind of like a tiny little nod, Easter egg, wink to Bob Lazar. His expose has now come to a point where it's just changed life in general and what people even perceive their government as, you know?
You see, I didn't actually... Well, it's not that I didn't know that, but also did... So did no one know about Area 51 before Bob Lazar?
No. It was just a caged off facility. It didn't even have the cages at one point. No, like, it was just was bought.
That's once people started going there.
Yeah, it was built by. It was bought by the government. They bought this massive plot of land that belonged to this rancher, and he owned all of Groom Lake, or this area, and he just had a tiny little shack on there. And I think that's to do with, what's the very famous place that builds aircraft? I can't remember.
Lockheed and Martin.
Lockheed Martin. They bought the plot of land, and it is now Area 51.
I was about to mention that earlier on because they've got really close things with EG&G or...
Yeah, that's it.
Called.
They bought the plot of land that is now Area 51. So he's just gone and blown the lid off of everything. And what's funny is he then explains that after that live television broadcast happened, he received a phone call from a guy called Dennis that he worked with, and that he had phoned Bob Lazar up and said to him, do you realise what they are going to do to you now? And just hung the phone up, and he's never heard
sounds
from him since.
like a threat, right?
It does, doesn't it? It really sounds like a threat.
It was then just threat after threat after threat, right? After that moment, it was...
And this is where my kind of knowledge of it is gone, because everything from there in between is basically all you ever hear is Bob Lazar didn't want anything to do with it anymore, and you hear stuff about how he was like, he just wanted to have his quiet little life.
Right, yeah.
And that's where I kind of go, yeah, because after that they paid you off, man. Like, that's where
is that what you think?
You had your quiet. You've had your 5 minutes of fame. We've paid you off, and carry on your story, because it doesn't even touch the surface of what we've got. Like,
right, yeah.
And people won't believe you anyway. It's like, what the last week when we were talking about how this fucking YouTube's just like an ancient artifact, and they eventually dig it up, and it's us fucking idiots talking on here about like like coffins with children in. They're like, oh, they were that was what they used to bury people in. I was like,
Yeah, an actual sock
no,
drawer.
it wasn't. That's what they used to fucking like put stuff in. Like, no, they're coffins now. They're
Yeah,
coffins,
that's
'cause
6
we don't
children
have
to
any
a bedside cabinet.
we don't have any wood left. Like, we literally have to use aluminium because we've literally burnt the world to smithereens. We have nothing.
Right.
But it's how, like, after that, that's all I really, apart from the media element of it, which
Right,
is
yeah, he obviously
essentially
spoke-
what we know is the deceptive part of it. Like,
Yes, yeah.
you've got your left and you've got your right saying, Bob Lazar, fucking world's biggest idiot. And then you've got the right going, Bob Lazar, new speaker of the crazy, is he right? Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's well, it just brings us to where we are today. He blew the lid off of Area 51's existence, and then it's just changed. Like, it's changed. What's the word I'm thinking of?
It's changed the lexicon, isn't it? Is it the lexicon? It's the zeitgeist. Is it? What is
or
one
something.
of those words?
One of those words that we're not intelligent enough to use. But he's just.
I like them
changed the-
both. Use them both.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's changed the zeitgeist, or he's changed reality for a lot of people because of the fact that that place could possibly hold answers to, are we alone? Like
Yeah.
you said, JJ, religion, like the meaning of life to a degree. Do they know
My-
that we were created by
Yeah.
like an experiment or something like that? Like, he never said that he saw aliens and stuff like that, but the fact that he claims that there's these 9 different extraterrestrial-based vehicles, like and some of them are really old. Like,
My
10,000
one
years
of
old,
one of the
okay.
guys who works at my shop. He's ex-military, and we always butt heads about stuff like this because he's like, his argument is always the government don't have a right to tell you anything about anything. Like, anything you find out about the government, chances are it's probably false because it's essentially like a double agent telling you something about it, and it's not your right to know it, again, because of Homeland Security and like
Sure.
I don't know what the British one is, and like part of me,
MI6.
like I am starting to like reason with him to an element, but
Yes.
then because of where we are now, like, we talk about technology now, like, we would never have been able to do what we're doing now. Like, you're in America, like, we were talking before, like, it's like 4 hours from my house to Ben's house. Like, you would never be able to do this kind of open discussion. And there has been like a massive influx of people doing these things because of this technology.
Yeah,
But 10 years ago or 20 years ago, this would have been conspiracy. Like, us doing this would have been conspiracy, but just
Right.
because people have gone, actually, this might benefit us. This, like, people speaking openly might benefit us because you're going to get as many cranks as you are going to get, like, people logically speaking. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not underselling this conspiracy podcast.
No, of
by
course
the way.
not.
I'm saying it's,
and then sort of like I said, that it kind of brings us to this point in history where we are at the moment. But it's only in the last couple of years where the Pentagon have obviously declassified the 3 videos: the Tic Tac, the Go Fast, and the Gimble video. What's incredibly intriguing, though, that Bob Lazar mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast, and because I don't think like an engineer or a physicist or anything like that regards, what Bob Lazar explained in how that they weren't successful in figuring out how this reactor worked and powered this craft. They then put it away, let our technology get up to speed or progress a few decades, bring it back out, let's have a look at it, let's see if we understand it. Going to the expose videos, or not expose, the declassified videos, or particularly Commander Fravor's one, it's incredible how Bob Lazar's machine that he was explaining all those years ago, how it worked and how this craft worked because of it. That craft is clearly being seen by US Navy pilots, US Air Force pilots on the Nimitz off the East Coast and West Coast of America.
San Diego,
that are performing in the same manner as the ship that Bob Lazar claimed to have worked on. And him explaining that, it came to a point we couldn't get the reactor to work, so we just put it away, let our own reality and technology kind of progress. Let's bring it back out and take a look at it. Him explaining that to me, hearing that explained to me, I was just like, that makes so much fucking sense. How in that amount of time, in 30 years, we haven't seen anything, and then boom, suddenly there's these craft fucking moving around in the sky in ways that Bob Lazar was explaining in like 1989.
Have you guys watched the UFO trials on Amazon?
No.
No.
I'll have to check that out.
It's called UFO Trials or Trials of a UFO Investigator or something like that.
Right.
One of the interesting things that I pulled from that was in the late 1800s there was multiple sightings of what a guy described as what would now be seen as like a steampunk hot air balloon.
Whoa.
So like a Zephyr essentially.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And there was multiple sightings of it in the late 1800s. So the Zephyr was like, I think it was like early 1900s, something like that. Like for anyone who doesn't know what a Zephyr is, it's basically just a giant balloon with a little like command center underneath. But so as soon as I saw that, I immediately was just like what you were just saying there about how Bob Lazar talked about these military engineered things that we didn't know about, and now we're seeing loads of them. So in that idea, I would be like, well, maybe they are military and they're just testing them just to see, you know, for instance, like if you go back to like the Nazi bell, which was like this. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if this is legit. I don't know if the video I've seen is legit. But have you seen that really like? It's probably like 12 frames a second, and it's like a UFO, and it's held down by chains in like and it's got the swastika on the side, and it's legit. It's like have you never? It's fucking mental. It's like probably like 12, maybe 20 frames a second. Like obviously.
Glock.
It's what they call the Nazi bell, which was apparently.
That's
and this
crazy.
is it. It's fucking mental. Like it basically is like how you would imagine a UFO, or how we imagine a modern UFO, but a little bit taller on the top, like a bit more like a hat. And it's on these chains, and it's in this like small room, and it's like that. Like it looks unstable. Like you wouldn't fly it. It literally looks like the Wright brothers when they were flying that fucking like. You know, and it's just like all over the fucking place. And that was in like 19th. The thing is, again, it's hard to say. I saw that and I was like, that makes sense. But then if someone says it's a hoax, it's equal to somebody saying that everything Bob Lazar's talking about is a hoax. So at the time, you can't go back and be like, if you went back there and there was probably like, hello, I am fucking, I don't know, Heimlich Blanza. I am your German host today. I have just made this massive bell-shaped thing.
Flying craft.
Yeah, exactly. And back then, though, they'd just be like, fuck off, and shoot him straight in the face. You know? Because they didn't have the internet then. They were like, where is Heimlich gone?
Yeah.
Heimlich has gone to the eternal gods in the sky. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
it's easy to pass it off.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
It's easy just to shuffle it under the floorboards. And I think the thing with... I'm with, like... I don't know how you feel about Jeremy, but I'm with Ben on that, because I feel like he's just a guy who's just trying to cash in on a 30 years of torment this guy's got.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And and the thing is, he's been on not Jeremy Corbyn. He's been on Joe Rogan 3 times.
Yes,
he's been with Jeremy Corbyn, that fucking Labour guy, giving us 3 days' work. Where's the economy now? I think he's from around here, but. Joe Rogan's like three appearances he's on Joe Rogan, which is probably more than some of Joe Rogan's best mates.
And it does make sense that we are seeing Bob Lazar more now, purely because of obviously that the UFO disclosure that has officially occurred, and the fact that one of the ships acts in the same manner as what Bob Lazar had been explaining for years, even with the heart-shaped aura that he even drew out on his diagrams of the ship he was working on, as to how the reactor's gravitational field works. And it's in that Gimble video, you can see you can see the wave form around the ship. So it's no surprise that, I don't know, people are probably trying to cash in on Bob. And granted, I did see on Bob's United Nuclear website that you can actually buy some Bob Lazar merchandise, which has come out in unison with Jeremy Corbell's documentary. A lot of people sit there and say, "Oh, he doesn't cash in on it," and this, that, the other. He's clearly, and he deserves it.
Exactly.
I was listening to another podcast. Yeah, I've listened to another podcast, and they were sitting there saying that, he says he's not making a profit, but he's selling this and he's selling that. It's like during that period where he exposed Area 51 and up until now, I don't remember seeing Bob Lazar turn up at Comic-Con and just sitting there in his board in the background going, UFO guy, do you want an autograph? Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar?
I agree.
Lazar. I agree with that. There's none of that. What I see Bob doing at the moment, I'm, like you said, JJ, the guy's been tormented for years and years and years. Like, let him cash in on something. What's that? I can get photocopies of my alien ship that I drew with my signature on it for $50 or whatever. All right, then.
He's probably, how old is he now? Probably about
62. 62.
Yeah, okay, so he's, in the event, I mean, he's not going to last to 90,
No.
That amount of nuclear waste that he's been around, he'll probably be dead next week. And then there'll be some fucking wild conspiracy about that, Bob Lazar found skinless. And it's just
at Skinwalker Ranch.
With clean cut marks down his ribs, but they weren't clean, they were used a serrated knife.
And wearing a pair of OG socks.
Yes.
20% off.
There we go.
OG's,
I just went like that. I'll pass one down to Dean, and hopefully the postal service has arrived. Ben will superimpose them into your hand. One thing that has recently come around, I saw an article the other day, was before we get past everything, was that they have now said that there is more videos coming.
Apparently, more declassified videos on the way, yeah.
Tom DeLonge said, so I'm going to put my hands up. I invested into the Stars Academy. I've got
good for you, dude.
80 shares in it. And at the moment, the shares are doubled. I didn't do it for that, but just saying, I'm not an idiot. Well, I am, but they're saying 100 new videos are coming soon. One of the ones that Fravor talks about, which I'm super interested in, because Bob Lazar in one interview, he talks about when he saw the thing come on Groom Lake, not come on Groom Lake, but land. Ah! His wife's gutted. She's like, "That's my little green baby." He said it landed on Groom Lake, and then he said it felt like it shut off power, and it floated there. There's he speaks. I don't know if it was Joe Rogan, but he speaks about it on something, and he says it felt like it was. He said
this
almost
is Tom DeLonge, sorry.
No. This is Bob Lazar.
Oh, sorry,
It felt like it was almost floating. He said with other things with the. So they always talk about the heat signature, don't they? On UFOs.
Yes. Yeah.
And he said on all these Nimitz videos, there's no heat signature. It moves. It's and somebody says, "Oh, it's a bird." I'm like, come on, mate. I'm pretty sure the fucking technology is, but oh, another bird.
Yeah.
And then sell it. But he talked about how it kind of stopped, and it's on he talks about it on one of the 3 flight videos on the Wednesdays, and he said it almost stopped, and he said it was just floating. I don't know if someone was knocking on my door then. Get well paranoid.
I heard something then too. They're coming for you, JJ.
Might have been my cat. But anyway, he said it completely stopped, and it was literally there. The one thing that Fravor says was that thing, he said, I'm pretty sure in the unidentified, Tom DeLonge thing, he said he felt like a nauseous feeling, and then he said it all just stopped, and he said, because obviously he was in a plane, so you've got to imagine those planes have got to travel at a certain speed to stay elevated.
Of course, yeah.
We imagine it as because he said it mirrored how he was moving.
Yeah.
But if they're moving at the same pace as him and they're mirroring, but he said at one point when that thing touched the ground, he said it almost stopped, and he said he felt like a complete like wave of like calm, and then another fighter pilot guy said that's what it feels like when you're about to like pass out from G-force.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
So I was just like, has the guy just like literally gone like G-force, like loopy? Has he just gone mental? And he's just like, but that was the interesting thing for me, that he said that he felt that thing stopped, but then there was like a vibration under the, I'm just doing it on camera, but under the, I'm not rusty tromboning a guy, but he said like the water was shaking, but then the thing above it had stopped. He said it was almost like it was just like,
and
like
was that
vibrating, but
Didn't he say that it felt like it noticed him at first though?
And it mirrored, and then he flew up, and it mirrored his movement.
And
which is like,
was you saying that Bob Lazar explained a craft that acted the same way?
Bob Lazar said on one of the test flights, like the second or third one, he said it almost came right down to ground. And this is what I thought you were talking about with the military guys coming with the green light, because that's what I thought I heard, but maybe I just misheard what he was saying.
No,
but
I
thought he said it came down to a level, and then it kind of, he said it felt like something had changed. You know, like when, like I said before about like when oxygen is sucked out of somewhere and you're just like, or the energy is sucked out of somewhere. He said it felt like it stopped, and then I think he said it either disappeared or the lights went off and there was nothing there anymore. So, in my mind, that would be either going underwater or... Because, you know, when you go underwater,
a second craft, exactly the same as what Bob Lazar had explained, and we're seeing it in disclosed, videos. So, we're obviously coming up to the end mark with the fact of that... Like I said at the start of this podcast, it's a very thin veil of a story. It's nothing... like super crazy explosions and it's just a very basic story, but it has had like the biggest impact on life.
It kind of for me, it's the story that kind of underpins all the other stories. Like it all comes back to what Bob said, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
especially like the Commander Fravor stuff and George Knapp stuff in the future. Like it always tick a box, like, oh, Bob said that. Bob did that.
Yeah, it's like Bob Bingo. UFO disclosure is literally like Bob Bingo.
You know when the Ewoks find C-3PO and they like put him on that chair.
Yes,
I can imagine that's what's going to happen in like the next 20 years. All those like green men come down and they're like, Bob Lazar will shake hands with the guy who had an affair with his wife and be like, I'm sorry, man, we just had to do this to get the story out. And then they'll all be like, Bob. And then, like, they'll just take him off in a big fucking hakaba or whatever it was called. Kahaba. And he'll just fly off. Yeah, and then they'll just forget about all of us lot. And we'll just be...
Did you hear...
Bob.
So on that... Obviously on that George Knapp podcast, they go down a rabbit hole a bit. And there's another one with some guy as well, which we should touch on as well. Some guy talking about aliens. But I think it comes down to the fact that no one knows whether aliens are just future versions of ourselves.
Oh yeah, when they got into that, and Joe Rogan was explaining how it could be our future selves.
The muscles that over time have got smaller, our heads have got bigger, our eyes have got bigger, our skin's got like
taking in
lighter
information quicker than ever before.
Oh my god!
Just
imagine. Just
you
imagine.
Explain that though, but that sounds plausible.
It also
the concept of the concept of
it's horrifying.
Like, briefly pulled in by like string theory and stuff. Are they? The idea is that obviously I'm presuming you've both seen Interstellar, like absolutely fantastic film, and it's like it blows your mind. But the generation before us, like our parents and like maybe our grandparents, they don't even touch on that. So like the concept that they've taught us everything we know, and that's essentially passed on to us, and we know that. Like, of course you would. Like, if somebody said to you, what do they always say? Like, everyone always says, "Oh, I wish I knew now what I knew. I wish I knew back then what I know now."
Yes,
that's the fucking first thing. It's like fucking Marty McFly, the almanac.
Right. Yes, of course.
Go back and then it fucks it up. So I'm just like, don't fucking do it. Just let us die. Let us go in our fucking
So now we're just
like metal coffins and, you know.
My Wayfair
Get
bedside
shipped
table,
on,
please. Yeah.
Shipped off to get raped.
Now this is like leading us into the like time travel fucking like area of things.
John
Like,
Titor.
is it our future selves coming back, keeping an eye on us, being like, let's just drop a few craft like for archaeological digs and just see if they like find them.
Then
They're on the
imagine,
brink.
obviously, if they're going back, they would have been going back for years to do it. So look, we've had to do it. Say, look, we need to give them a little bit of a leg up on technology because they need to move quicker. Because if they don't get to this point in time, we're not going to exist. Yeah, that's right.
I think we should do a charity podcast and just see how long we can do it before we go mental. Like, let's see if we can do it for that long that we can physically, like, we meditate that much we can go back to the beginning of the podcast.
And tell us
Like,
how
just
not
keep
to do it.
yeah, just keep doing it. Don't do this. Because what you were saying there is like, it's fucking insane. Like, you know, we've all week we've just been like, what the fuck is this? What? And like Donald Trump's bragging about the next 8 weeks are going to be like they're going to be the big daddy of exposing everything. It's not. It's going to be like, wow, everything's fine. You know.
Nothing's ever going to come out because obviously he says he knows something and he goes, and they go, if you say this, you're going to be killed. And he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Because there's someone said there's rumours that, like this is really rabbit hole-y right now, but that
do it.
That Donald Trump is potentially a time traveller, or his uncle is a time traveller, and that is why so many assassination attempts of Donald Trump have failed. And apparently they've tried loads recently. Like since
What was that?
Yeah, apparently Donald Trump's uncle John Trump brought or was handed Nikola Tesla's books and his all his research.
Christ.
And he then time traveled, and that's the reason Donald Trump is where he is now. That's the reason that Donald Trump is able to avoid any of these attempts on his life. I think that's might
crazy.
be a fall of Cabal, or it might have something to do with fall of Cabal.
It all goes round in a
It might be
circle.
something I've watched after that.
Right,
But
yeah.
Obviously, and everyone's saying that Trump is signalling to Q and stuff like that. And
And all that. Yeah.
yeah, but
Jeez, yeah, okay.
I mean, if in 8 weeks, if we get all these leaks and stuff, then he is a time traveller.
We'll have a hell of a lot of. Well, we'd have to do some bumper episodes or something. Fuck me.
Yeah,
But
I was going to say, life was stressful for Dean before, now it's going to be even more stressful
It's
for
gonna
Dean.
be
You're
even
like,
more-
Dean, you've got to get up at 6 a.m. now and do the fucking podcast. It's 4 a.m. here. Come on. JFK Jr. is QAnon.
Well, right. So, what was it that I was watching where they were talking about how Barron Trump is like an absolute genius? Is that
Barron Trump is right? So Barron Trump. Have you not seen? Like, there's some fucking idiots like Trump advocates that are idiots, right? But it's a guy, and he's basically put all the Trump children on the back of his t-shirt, but he's got all the dates wrong, and this guy's like shooting him down. But they're saying that Donald Trump's son is gonna be like the fucking head honcho. He's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be the one who changes the world.
Jesus Christ.
And the thing is, like, if, like, I've been in, like, situations where I'm just like, if there's fucking weird people, I'm just like, my mum's, like, lovely, she'll speak to everybody, and my dad's just like, he's just not bothered, he's just like, I just be like, go and speak to them for a bit, and then I kind of weigh up what they're saying, and I'm listening, I'm like, oh, actually, they're nice people. Kind of, like, cuts that chit-chat out. So then I go and speak to them, and my mum's like, you're the fucking one who... I mean, obviously you guys know, but, like, you're the one who fucking speaks a lot. But I'm like, no, I fucking bide my time. I, like, put them guys off and, like, you know... And this is the thing, I think that's what Donald Trump's done, because someone was talking about Donald Trump's interview that he does with his son. And everyone's saying, like...
when he was, like,
everyone's talking about how he's fucking... Like, Donald Trump's son is, like, super intelligent. Like, and you just like, of course he's fucking intelligent. He's been brought up in the richest schools. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know much about the Trump dynasty, but from what I gather, his dad was a bit of a turd. Everyone doesn't like Donald Trump because his dad was a turd. And then everyone's like, with this other kid, he's just like, oh, he's a millennial. So, well, maybe not a millennial. He's probably like
Gen Z, isn't he? Or something. Whatever.
Gen Z.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
so he's probably like our age, right? Is he?
No,
Is he? I
think so,
What,
maybe.
Barron? Oh no. What,
Yeah, the one who's
the youngest.
the one who's like the one that everyone's
Oh,
like.
Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what, the wanker?
Yeah,
Oh,
just-
right, he's the wanker, is he?
Yeah, he's
I'm
the
getting
complete
confused because
tosspot. No, they're talking about Barron Trump, the youngest, Melania.
he's like 14, right? Isn't he?
Yeah,
Or-
He's
he's
just
fucking-
addicted to
apparent-
Minecraft.
Apparently, like,
yeah. I built an empire, Daddy.
apparently he's an absolute G, like when it comes to intelligence and stuff. Like, and he's. Gonna,
But
like,
kids are fucking intelligent these
Yeah.
days. Like you look
my
at.
niece is, she's 8. She can code. I can't code.
What?
She can code. They teach it in
What?
Aye,
school.
but can she build a flux capacitor?
In Minecraft, she can. Yeah.
Yeah.
But right,
In
let's not
Minecraft,
get
she-
Yeah,
Let's-
God, I
let's not
know.
get-
We're just.
let's not get too far away from
Right,
what we're getting
so
to. We're trying to wrap
what
it
does
up.
everyone think? Right now, we've discussed it as a group. What does everyone think of Bob Lazar's story? And
So, I believe I'm still 75% in Bob's corner. The story is utterly convincing to me. Loose ends do seem to have connections to where they're meant to go, if that makes any sense. I do find it very strange that there isn't any evidence of his past education, but that is like incomparable in his knowledge of these craft that he was working on. The military base Area 51 and the location of S4. Like, he was all aware of all of these particular things. He knows a lot of shit that he shouldn't know about, and he's a very convincing person. If it is a lie, it is one of the best pieces of method acting that has ever happened, or it's the truth, and it looks like it is slowly but surely becoming truth. That's how I feel about him.
I'm with Dean like 100. Well, not with Dean on the percentage. I'm probably about 90%, 10%, and I was 100% until this week, because obviously with these elements, I just seen Ben's face just like. Ben's like, don't believe it, fact, fact.
His wonky backstory and his crimes and yeah.
let JJ finish, and
I was like, I was 100%, but now I'm like maybe like 90%, 10%, because I feel that like the things against him aren't good enough to like warrant him as being a deceiving person. Like,
Right.
every human wants to have sex. That's fine. If he wants to pay for sex, which he probably paid for using the money from fucking blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of them. Like, that's the only thing they've got against him. Like, oh, he liked to prostitute and he wanted to help some girls out, not make bigger prostitutes, not like scientifically make massive prostitute. Yeah, maybe he was he liked
Attack
being
of the 60
gravity
foot
propelled
woman.
prostitutes.
Yeah, that's it. He just liked people sitting on his face. I'm 100% on his story. Like, the one thing which debunkers always go to is the Joe Rogan thing, and I think for somebody who's had that much pressure and that much
the
like
migraines,
thing in his
right.
life, and he's got that thing in his life where everybody's trying to prove him wrong. Like,
Yes,
if someone you can meet people straight away and you can immediately, and it's weird. Like, I feel like not with us, but I feel like when the lockdown thing was happening and you have like webcasts and stuff, you can still feel that energy regardless of whether you're there. So then it kind of proves like, is AI like intervening with this? But you can always prove that, you can always feel like there's somebody like trying to get you or put you down. And I think the problem is with Bob Lazar is he's probably always got his little shield up and he's always like, I don't feel comfortable with this. The whole migraine thing, it was the same with the Tom DeLonge one. Like, Tom DeLonge was like, I've got this stuff, can't tell you about it. 3 months later, he came out of it, and no one went, "Oh, sorry, Tom DeLonge, for fucking shooting you down."
Right,
They just
yeah,
kind
I'm still bitter about that.
Scuttled her back about
Yeah,
their
and do you know
keyboards, and
what?
I was just.
Joe Rogan was a complete prick to Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, he was on that
Yeah,
episode.
and I felt like he was.
Absolutely.
I felt like he was like that with the Corbell on the first one. I felt like
But
that's
not
what.
with Bob, though. But not with Bob.
No, not with Bob, because
No,
the
no.
thing is, Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan saw the fact that Bob's story was legit, but he didn't see Jeremy's intention
As being
legit
pure,
towards
yes.
Bob. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think
yes.
that's the difference between like psychology and the truth. Like Bob might fully believe that everything he saw and everything he did, and that makes it sound like I don't believe that, but he
No,
might
I
fully
understand
believe.
your... Yes.
He might believe everything's real. And that's the difference. You can tell whether someone's intentions are like what you said,
Pure,
Daniel,
yeah,
are
yeah,
pure.
yeah.
And the problem is, you can tell with that Corbell guy. But I now am starting to feel okay for the Corbell guy, because I think he probably went in going, I can make loads of money.
Yes.
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
he's really got himself into the situation.
I just don't like him because he feels like a hype man. Why is he always there? Why didn't he just get George Knapp on his own? I feel like he's running some sort of like syndicate where
It's
he's like,
to do with
look,
the film. He gets on Rogan because obviously people pay to go on Rogan
right.
to promote stuff. So he's obviously
Yes.
promoting his films because he was promoting the Bob film. He's doing something with Commander Fravor.
And Fravor.
He's doing and Skinwalker film as well. That
Yeah,
he's doing.
No, he's done it. It's Hunt for the Skinwalker.
Yeah.
That's already out.
Which
Yeah, yeah.
apparently is shit.
Yeah, it's
No,
not
it's
good.
awful. It's dog
Yeah.
shit.
Apparently the book's
It's
amazing. though.
loads of footage. Again, that one where he's like, sorry, I'm digressing, but if anyone wants to watch it, that part where he's like, you got any proof of it? It's like, no, we looked at it, and then we moved the camera away, and then we looked back, and it had been dismantled. I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah, because
right,
you can't do that on fucking DaVinci Resolve. Free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can do that on I can do that on iMovie on my mobile phone. It's not fucking hard.
So you're a Bob fanboy, JJ.
I'm
Waving that
swaying.
flag.
I'm swaying. Yeah, I'm swaying Bob. Like
Swaying for Bob.
90% Bob. I think the 10% of the haters, like the
Yeah.
haters, are starting to make me feel like I hate Corbell. Like that's it. Like I like Bob Lazar. Bob's
yeah.
fine. How about you, Ben?
See, I'm 50-50, I think, with Bob. I'm 50-50
course he
with the
is.
story because I can't. I believe that he was there, 100%, because there's no proof that he wasn't there, and there's no
Right.
proof of anything he did. What was he doing if he wasn't there for 6 months?
Yeah.
or a
Like I
year.
said, I was skeptical on that.
But what was he doing? So maybe I'm more than that. Maybe I'm more believing Bob. But
Believe in the Bob.
I believe in the Bob, but I
believe in the
what
Bob.
was he doing if he wasn't there? Like, there's no one going, well, no, actually, he couldn't have been there because he was here doing this.
Yeah,
for
and
these
we've got
people.
credit card records of this here, and he
That's
was.
it. Because if I was the government and trying to debunk him and go, well, no, you weren't here because this is your record of you working here, so you weren't. Fuck off.
You've got to remember though, it was only like just over a year of his life, and he was like
Yeah.
26. Is that right? 24, 25, 6.
Oh, I believe him. I believe that he believes, 100% that he believes it. Everyone that talks to him, anyone that interviews him, just goes, well, he's telling the truth, whether it's
Yeah.
the truth or not. He believes he's telling the truth. What I just don't know. I don't, because the MIT thing, like, I believe that the government can wipe out your past and your history.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, it's on a computer. They just go, delete. And they go, MIT, if you don't delete this, we are not going to fund you. You've got to say this happened or we won't fund you. And Professor, you're going to lose your tenure. You're going to lose your job. We're going to ruin you if you don't say that Bob didn't work.
Of course, because
we need
those
to make
scientists
him
are the
seem
people
like
who
a
are coming and
lunatic.
making their rockets.
Yeah.
Right.
Those
We want to make
MIT
him
scientists
sound
are the
like a
people who are
lunatic.
making their fucking... Because they can't get Nazis anymore. That's the thing. They can't, They can't bribe the Nazis into coming to fucking do it anymore, can they? Because all the Nazis have gone, well, there's another conspiracy.
Hey.
Let's just say that George Bush Sr. is Hitler's son.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
100%.
Christ! Stop.
Yes.
And Prescott Bush is his adopted father, and they needed someone to get this son out from. But anyway, we digress. Let's go.
But Dean, you need to see the picture. You need to see the picture.
Anyway,
you should see him sat on fucking Hitler's lap.
I do believe Bob. I just
only
I just
50%.
I can't fully believe the whole story. I don't know what he saw was real, whether he was working with aliens or not, or spacecraft. I believe that he went to S4, and I believe him, and I believe that he believes what he said. But I don't believe fully that it was alien spacecraft he was working on.
Right.
But, so are you on the idea that the craft that he was working on was of this planet?
No, I don't believe he was working on anything like that at all. I think he might be
really
making that bit up. I think he might be making that bit
so
up.
that's him making all of it up then, because
no, it's not.
That is
it's just what he was working on there. I reckon he was working on something way more boring, like rockets or something.
Way more boring.
I don't know, man. Like, I know this is like I know this is our wrap up, but this is our arguments between ourselves. Like, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, at all. He's a fucking scientist. Like, it can't have been more boring, because those guys find the most, like, everything so, like, life and everything so boring. It must have excited him. Something must have been like, what the fuck is this thing?
I can't imagine that he would still be alive today if it was something more, if it was actually what he came out and said.
But that's one person coming out of one place. This is why I'm thinking, if all of a sudden a mass, like, for instance, now all these celebrities are getting offed and all these people are dying, it's because there's more than one person speaking about it. And the thing is with Bob Lazar, all right, it's just one guy. We could argue that the other guys have been offed, but they probably haven't been. Like, they're probably just, what's the, it's like innocent until proven guilty kind of vibe. Like, if one person comes forward for your defense, you're probably guilty. If, like, multiple people come forward and say, no, he's a good guy, then they all die. That's my thought on it. Like,
well, I think as well, Bob, he said on Joe Rogan that he was more interested in the technology than the fact that it could have belonged to a different, like, planet. He was like, this is what mankind needs. Like, this technology is incredible, and that's why I believe him as well, because he wasn't like, oh, green men in Zeta Reticula, it was just, look at this, like, technology, it's incredible. The same as Commander Fravor said, that instead of what was that thing, where did it come from, his first words were, what was that thing, I want to fly it. Those people
and it's
like
better
that.
than us, and that's what this is what is kind of the kind of, like, the pushing of the alien thing for Bob Lazar, like, because it feels like the story where he saw that dummy was, like, a later story. It doesn't feel like it was part of the original concept. No. And this is like what you were saying about the Fravor thing. They're more interested because they're fucking militant people who are concerned about their government and their people's well-being. Bob Lazar's not, because he's like, you've met these fucking, like, my mum used to take in, not squatters. She didn't live in a squat. She used to take in, like, kids who had been kicked out of their houses.
Foster care and that.
Kind of, but not. They just used to, like, come and lodge at our house. One of them was, like, a Microsoft engineer. Like, he'd got a degree. And this was before, like, they just gave him away. And he could reprogram computers, but he used to fucking reboil his tea in a fucking microwave. Because he's a fucking idiot. Like, you could just pour it out and make it. I mean, I'm sorry if anyone does that at home, but
I understand what you mean.
He used to, like, put his tea, like, cold water in a teacup and then put it in the fucking microwave. Because he has no common sense. And Bob Lazar seems to me like one of those guys, like, just somebody who's just,
I'm gonna work on aliens, but
so
at the same
involved
time,
with science. He has no. Exactly. He probably opened a brothel because he didn't know what fucking sex was. They were probably just like, we're sex workers, Bob. And he's just like, what? He's like,
what element's that?
You put SPERM into a fucking woman and she comes out with BABY. And that's it, Bob.
What's
He's
that?
like,
Uranium, you put uranium, nickel, and copper. What? God damn it,
Fucking
Bob, get in
idiot.
here.
Exactly. Just get in, Bob. I've seen that long geeky length. Get it inside me.
He does look
I
like
don't
he's
know
got
why
a
all
bit
these
of a piece on him,
prostitutes are
doesn't
from
he?
Yorkshire.
He's got
Get
the
him
look of
inside me, Bob.
He looks like a man with big hands, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
he's got big
exactly.
hand. Size 12 feet.
Yeah, big
Well,
old.
if you the
big
fucking you see those fucking
Big
like
dick.
weird porno versions of like the Incredible Hulk where he's just like being scientific, and the next thing, his body's normal colour, but his dick is massive, long, and green. Fuck it. Maybe you hadn't seen that.
No. I don't want to put that in my browser history.
Well,
I wouldn't.
so we got 2 for 1
On the fence.
on the fence. I
Ben,
mean,
you're always on the fence.
someone's got to be on the fence.
Uh,
I was hoping that like you two would be like, I don't believe him and I believe him, and I could be like, I'm in the middle, you know.
No, man. No.
But no, you both fucking believe him. I like I said, I don't not believe him. I just don't. I feel like more people either would have come forward, or he would have been killed. You know what I mean?
Right.
yeah, I get that. 100%
That's,
get
I
that.
think. Like, but anyway, I'd like to thank our sponsors, OG Socks.
Hey, ogsocks.co.uk.
Promo
Thanks,
code
Steph and Gav,
NAC.
homeboys.
NAC, if you didn't hear that,
NAC.
20% off.
They do. Is it just the
NAC.
fast food socks they do, or do they do? Other
No, they
socks?
do loads of socks. We're talking to them about doing not another conspiracy cast pair of socks, which would be cool, man.
Cool. That would
Cool.
be dope.
Yeah, but they do loads of other cool gangster ones as well. I would go get them, but it's just in my other room in my bungalow, in the room next to me. But I'm drunk again, as you can probably tell. I'm slurring. It's Wednesday night, man. Who cares?
Join the Discord. The links are in the description.
Hell yeah.
We are active in there, and we get our minds blown every 25 to 30 minutes by someone posting
Yeah.
a link in there, and we do watch them all, and we do go crazy on them. And
Please speak more about adrenochrome.
Yeah, I
Adrenochrome.
really want to do a Fall of Cabal episode, but I think we need to watch that a few more times. But I want to, maybe we'll do another news episode next week. It depends what happens, I guess.
Yes, of course. I'm going to be watching the Fall of Cabal after this. So,
Dean's like, I've got
Dean.
a week off, mate. I ain't doing this shit.
Dean, watch.
I just
Fall of
want a
Cabal.
night of chilling. I don't want to think about kids and
I'm going to put
lockers.
my phone on silent and do not disturb. But in the morning, if I don't have over 300 messages on all platforms going, oh my God, why aren't you awake? I need to talk to someone about Fall of Cabal.
can't
So
wait.
good.
can't
Celine
wait.
Dion, high priestess of the
She's
Satanic
looking
Church.
even worse, though.
Everyone's just like, the problem is, like, you speak, I know,
Hey.
God, we're going into it again, but people
Stop
speak about
it.
that. She's just fucking old, man. Like, you know, she had a prime
Sucking
when
the
she was
blood
like
of
20.
babies.
Exactly.
Because she looked pretty good until 3 years ago. Well,
Did
still
she?
looked ugly as fuck. She still looked ugly as fuck.
I'd still bang her, to be fair, man. Like, she's...
It's a story,
They saw her coming... They made her come out, and I don't know what this, like, weird perspective
yeah,
thing
she
is,
looks
but
like a
she
skeleton
came out in
with a
that,
bag
like,
of bones
bear
now.
suit, and I was like, fuck, I'd still have her, man.
Also, yeah, that's it. Thank you, OG Socks. Thank you,
Yep.
Dean. Thank you, JJ. Anything else you'd like to say before we go?
No, I think I'm all good, mate.
Team
Peace
Bob,
out.
baby. We
Team
love you,
Bob.
Bob.
Bob. Epstein didn't kill himself.
Think about Bob Lazar. It's something we have to question amongst all of our lives. Stubbing your toe on the door handle. How do you even do that? Maybe it's aliens. Maybe it's just my mind from the future.
Thank you, Mickey
Please.
Rourke, as well, for seeing us off the podcast. We appreciate you.
Please
coming
leave that in. Please leave that
course
in.
I'll leave
It's
it
so
in.
good.
in. Mickey, we got Mickey Rourke on the episode.
What happens? When it comes to it, in the
Think, oh, maybe they did. So in the back, there is a
light brown jacket.
cool story.
When at the first, we definitely